everybody, and welcome to episode 21. Is the count of Third Man In, brought to you by Head Check Health. I'm Mike Hickey, and today I am joined by...
Tier
and Charles. I just got a great idea. Guys, we're 3 off of 2-4. We should have a 2-4 extravaganza in which we see how many Miller Lights we can drink.
Oh, wow.
Are you saying like as far as episodes?
Yeah, when we get to 24, we should have a 2-4 extravaganza.
Brought to you by Miller Lite.
Brought to you by Miller Lite, and we
see
see how many of those delicious Miller Lights we can crack into.
I can get through several, I can tell you that.
Not this weekend coming, I'm in Corner Brook.
Ooh,
and
nice.
The next weekend, which would be around that time. If you want to just do it one episode early.
Yeah.
My time is fucking really thin, man.
Looking at the time, I was actually going to pitch this to you guys anyway, but might as well do it now, is looking at the time, I got my wedding coming up. I think I might have to request that we take a couple weeks off just to kind of...
When is the wedding?
It's the 13th.
And you know what? We need you because you provide everything. You're like the kid that comes to the fucking ball hocky game and has all the pads.
Yeah,
and the
he's the goalie. He is. He's got the
Either
goalie
we play
gear.
We put two shoes down for posts.
Yeah,
the goalie with a can, or else the guy with all the fucking equipment.
We can figure it out. You guys can do this shit without me.
When is it again? What day specifically?
It's July 13th.
Nah, who cares?
You're out of town anyway. You were talking last week. You're saying you're off playing. You're playing hockey.
Not for the whole week, but yeah, I don't know.
I just had the thought there. I when you mentioned the kid with the pads, I remember that when I was like 8. The kid with all the goalie gear and road hockey got grounded for like 2 weeks of the winter. And it was like, I honestly think some children in Wabush went down a wrong path because of that.
I remember it happening with us too, like the kid who had all the gear, like getting sick or whatever, not being able to play, and like going and knocking on the door and like asking if his goalie pads could come out. Like that kind of, I remember us doing that just to try to make shit happen.
But no, but I think people know whether it's sporadic anyway. Like I said, if you were making a living at it and making enough money to make a living and you could set a schedule, but I mean, everything else comes first.
We find a way. Yeah, we find
all right. It's only been a couple times, and usually it's like it might be a couple days late or it might be whatever. But usually we manage to get something.
Last month and a half was a little sketchy there. We had one with no guest, and then we missed a week. And then we had Andre Waugh was an accident.
Yeah.
That we'll
the mystery guest. Yeah,
the mystery guest. Yes,
we will. I was gone to Edmonton.
You just spoiled who the mystery guest was.
Now when he returns.
But yeah, we will get Andre back on because he was. It was great to hang out with him during the Heart and Stroke Hockey Heroes weekend. So
probably one of the funniest people I've met for just a couple of days.
His Russian national anthem.
Oh my God, was it ever? Well, all I could think about was like, he's definitely gone to a team party as Nikolai Volkov. Yeah. Like that's probably where that stems from.
Well, I've heard, and we will. I can't wait to talk to him when he gets on. But he's apparently just an unbelievable teammate. Well, he won a Stanley Cup.
He's played with a lot of Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
You know how to be a team. If you're a bottom half guy on a Stanley Cup team, that means you really know how to be a teammate.
Yeah,
because
Speaking of, we're going to segue here. Speaking of guys that are apparently known how to be a teammates, the Flyers bought out or on conditional waivers for the purpose of terminating a contract Andrew McDonald there the other day, and all I could read about on Twitter was how important he was to the Philadelphia Flyers room. So you gotta wonder he lands somewhere.
Yeah,
you gotta figure he's gonna land somewhere pretty quickly. Probably quicker than Dion Phaneuf, who also got bought out. Not any disrespect to Dion Phaneuf, but
guys, how old is Phaneuf now?
He's had a long year.
Phaneuf's got to be 35.
And I got to give every time you hear his name, it's something like this. He's traded or he's bought out. I want to give him his fucking credit. He was one of the best hitters in the early game when he got drafted, and his first year he had 20 goals. Am I wrong? 20 fucking goals in his first year. He was a good
20,
team,
yeah.
and then in Toronto, I don't think people would think he was that bad if you just build him as number 4D.
Yeah,
he was a solid number 4D.
He literally redeemed himself to the point where when the Leafs were having D trouble and he was on the trading block with salary retained, it was, well, maybe he ends up in Toronto again, but I don't think he would have wanted that. He made Sidney Crosby swallow his mouth guard.
I don't
know if anyone knows that story.
He must have 1,000 games. Like
I'd say 860-ish.
It's one of those situations, man. It's a curious case because you're going to look back. it's not quite the Redden thing, but at the end I was hearing a lot about Redden, and I didn't like that either. Like these guys, the majority of their career, they've worked real hard and they've been real good. It's just that he was the captain of the league.
Yeah,
he had to
that's
answer
a
the
thankless
question.
job.
Yeah,
He was associated with guys
Also, we're in the cap era in which a guy can be vilified, not only vilified, downright hated because of the contract he signs. Look at Roberto Luongo's situation in Vancouver. It's no disrespect to Luongo from the fans, but he was hated on the way out of town, and it was all because of that contract.
Hopefully that doesn't happen to Erik Karlsson.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, big news today.
About
Also, just before we move on to Carlson, 1048 is Phaneuf's number.
So he broke 1,000.
Yeah,
he got that silver stick.
48
he's still
games
going,
over.
and someone will pick him up, man. He's still going. I'd take him as a 56.
If I were gonna bet, I'd say he's gonna end up on a $1 million somewhere. Anaheim, probably. I think he fits in Anaheim situation.
Hey, man, like I think you could find a way. I think he'd fit anywhere as a last D. He's still okay.
Well, maybe not San Jose because they don't have they don't have a lot of money to spend
Well, if Pittsburgh
anymore.
shakes Jack Johnson, they'll sign him to 5.
Yeah. I don't think he's worth much. I just think he can play. But I just think there's still a little bit of an upside. I mean, you don't have to fucking play him all game. He doesn't have to be your leader. He doesn't even have to be on the power play. He's just go out there and be an NHL defenseman for a couple $1 million. Sorry, the Karlsson thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to dive right into it. I can't. How many years was it? Am I?
8, full 8
at 11.
Yeah, I don't
11
agree.
even.
I don't care how good you are. I just don't. Especially you're aging and you're coming off injuries. I get that they're just,
This is his last big swing. That's he hit it out of the fences. One of the best things I read about this all day. Well, obviously, if your team is in the running for Erik Karlsson, like there were rumors with the Habs, and there's also rumors of an Ottawa return, which, if you know our track record on this program, we love to dunk on the Ottawa Senators, so I think he would have retired before that.
Yeah.
However, I don't know if it was Scott Burns. I don't remember the writer that wrote it, that he said, well, good on them getting it done this early, but this is a pretty there's a risk here. For a big piece, there's a risk here, and I think he's right. $11 million. He's just coming off a shortened season. He's just coming off a surgery, and he's there for 8 years.
And how old is he?
He's 29, 30?
29? If there's a 3 in front of it, then that's insane in the first place, because you could lose it tomorrow. It's just 8 years, and boom, it's both to me stink. 8 years for what? Okay, tell me it's 7 or 8. Jesus, 11. Fuck, like, what in the fuck are you doing? You're sinking all. I guess I could see it if it was like a 20-year-old.
I think on the other side of that
he's
is
29.
He's turning 30 this year.
8 years from now he's going to be worth $11 million? I don't think he is in 5 years from now.
He just turned 29 a couple weeks ago.
Oh, did he? Okay. Yeah. It depends on.
And he's injured 29, and he's a defenseman who gets hit a lot injured 29.
He is not just the groin injury. The big injury about him was the Achilles. That's always the big one to me, and I know it's 3, maybe 4 years ago now, but that's a big one. He had it cut with a skate.
Well, put it this way.
Oh, yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Put it this way. And then he had another injury on top of that. So now, put it this way. Though the year before that, whenever that injury was, he was arguably the best player in the NHL. And I'm going to go out and say that. I probably would have given him. It was one of those years. If it's up to me and I'm voting as a player, I probably would have voted him the MVP. Matt, now. So it's not that I don't have respect for the guy. That was a bunch of years ago. He's still good. Do you think he's matched that in the last few years? I don't. I watched him in San Jose this year. He's real good. He's top fucking 10 percentile.
I don't even think he had a good year in San Jose. I don't for what he's capable of doing. Now, but
45 points, 53 games, plus 6.
53 games.
Like the 53 games is alarming. It's almost the point a game, which is still real good for a D.
Definitely.
But to miss 30 again?
Here's my thing. If you're a GM and you have to do the job of building a team to win, which obviously San Jose is doing, this probably means Pavelski's going to move on wherever he ends up. But your job is to build a team that can win, and if you add Erik Karlsson to that, even if it's okay, we'll
look up his plus minus. Sorry.
Yeah, even if it's okay. So this is
last year was 6.
This is definitely a deal that for the next 3 years you can count on him being your best D-man. Maybe if he doesn't get the injury bug and anything like that, maybe the next 4 years you can count on him being your best D-man. And then if you're a GM in the NHL, likely after the next 4 years, it's a high chance that it's somebody else's problem, especially if you don't win in those 4 years.
Yeah.
That's the way. And with the cap situation, I think we're going to get a lot There's going to be a big cap bump.
No, you're right. I just think it's a bad deal for San Jose.
I think if they lose him, if they lose him for nothing, he gets in a lot of heat.
When you said he's +6, though, to me
that's just last season.
Plus minus though doesn't mean anything until you tell me the people around him.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Right. So where was that on the team? Was that good or bad?
I haven't looked on the actual team.
Because if it's not,
stats, plus minus, he's 10th on the team.
So pretty good. But it's a defense. So a lot of times, you might look and go like, oh my God, Shea Weber's +27. The next guy's +6. Oh, I get it. Because I'm not saying plus minus.
I don't know if Shea Weber's +27.
Nah, I just threw that out there. He's not.
But guys,
I'm just using an example. Like often you'll look at it.
Ron Hainsey's +1 million this year.
Well, like Luke Adams' first year, Luke Adams' big year in Cape Breton that he had 49. What I noticed there, he was +34. Yeah. Now I know you can't always knock a guy for being minus because you can be out there with other people. But if you're +34, that means you're out there like for 34, not only 34 goals on the season, 34 more times than they score. So you're doing something right. So if you fall within a team and you're near the top, that to me it's all relativity. So what I'm saying with Karlsson is that if he's fucking 6th,
I'm saying the year before that, and not to cut you off, I was just trying to for after. But the year before that, the year before he was 10th on the Sharks with a +6 rating. On that fucking dumpster fire Sens team. Yeah. He was 40th on that team. He had almost a point a game. He had 60-something points. He had 60 he had 62 points in 71 games and was -25.
Yeah, but -25. He's on the ice all the time.
I'm just saying I know, but to me, I love Erik Karlsson. So this is a weird I'm just saying we're talking about ridiculous money and time here. So if you're asking me, all of these boxes got to be ticked. Okay, if I'm giving you 8 years again and you're a defenseman, 11 that's turning 30 next year, if I'm giving you $11 million a year, you better be first in goals, assists, point. What do you give Burns then? Who gets 30 fucking goals a year as a D-man?
Burns is already locked up.
Yeah, well,
that's
he's
probably
locked up for what? Way less?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
oh yeah,
way less.
But that's the thing. They re-signed Burns, who they had. They knew that they were going to lose.
Huge. Burns is huge. He's hard to get around.
Terry with a mouthful of coffee.
Burns is the leading scorer on the team as the D-man.
Well, and what does he make? He makes like 9, I think. Maybe
he
less
makes
than 9.
8.
I mean,
hey, if you tell me Karlsson had 8, I'd probably say that's pretty good. Then
I think that's a steal. To me, it shows that
it can't be a steal if 11's too much and 8's a steal. Well, what? There's only a $3 million swing. It's good. A steal for Karlsson, I think, is 6.
No,
again, I'm just spitballing.
The thing
you're saying a steal you don't come across.
Yeah, but the thing about free agency is now each summer we're getting to a point where when a team signs a free agent, it's not a home run. It's like they're going to regret that.
What was Patrick Maroon?
Pat Maroon was a 1 year for like change. 1 year, $1 million.
I know, but what I'm saying is that's a steal.
That's a steal.
To me, there's 4 or 5 steals in a season. I don't think you can get a steal on a guy for 11 years, no matter if you're giving him millions, if you're giving 10 million.
8 years.
You give 8 years, even at $8 million, that's 64 altogether. Is never going to be a steal unless he wins you 5 cups. He's going to be maybe a decent contract. I just think 11's way too much. Unless you said 3 years, I'd give him 11.
I think that
8. No,
I honestly think that this summer, like each summer we get, there's no big piece, and this confirms it to me that there's no real big piece. There's a couple smaller pieces that come with a big price. I think Jake Gardner's probably going to make fucking 9 this summer.
No, Jake Gardner. How many points did he have, and what plus was he?
Oh, I doubt he was a plus.
You doubt it, but you don't know. Or what was his plus minus?
Jake Gardner was +19.
Wow.
Yep. What was top on the team?
Definitely Ron Hainsey.
I'll tell you. No,
I knew he had a decent plus minus. I think people shit all over him because his mistakes are obvious, but he's not far off.
Ron Hainsey was top on the team with 30.
Okay. And plus 19 ain't bad.
He's tied for 4th with Tavares.
Right. So wait. So Gardner is 4th.
Yeah.
Plus 19. Now think of all the shitting on fucking Gardner did between last year and this year, and even this year. Well, he sucks. Now I'm saying, look at the big picture. He might have in that clip. But overall, he's clearly playing a decent defensive game.
The Leafs are going to miss him a lot.
And how many points did he have?
He had 30 points.
And how old is he?
He is 28.
28. How many points did he have last season?
Last season,
50, right?
He had 52.
52. So that's Erik Karlsson. He had 30 last year. He had 52. What did Carlson have this year? 40-odd?
Yeah,
You just said?
It was low.
So
Carlson's numbers
one
were
guy
low
signing
this
for 8 years for 11 million. I'm not saying now Gardner's Carlson. I'm just saying if you're going by numbers, which people go by.
Yeah.
I just think it's what I don't think Gardner will get 9. If Gardner gets 9, I'll suck my own dick right now. There's no fucking way he's getting 9.
Well, okay, I won't say 9, but he'll be touching it. He'll be close. If he's in the 8s, it'll be an 8.75 or something.
I'm
the only
bet 7.5.
The only reason I'm saying that is because it's more and more often. I mean, a couple of years ago, the David Backus contract was, one of the big fish to get, but everyone's like, really, are we going to give this much money to a guy who's clearly his best years are behind him? A lot of people would have, and I won't say a lot, but I know a few people who, when Steven Stamkos signed that deal, they were like, well, maybe the Leafs dodged a bullet because of his injury history. I don't know. I think that's a stretch. I think that's a reach myself. But
you can always look at two sides.
Everyone fears. We're in an era right now where everyone fears the big bad Cap Wolf, and because of it, you get players that are vilified, like we mentioned Dion Phaneuf earlier, Roberto Luongo, and stuff like that. I don't think it's crazy to think that in 4 years, if Erik Karlsson has the injury bug and all of this stuff, one, I think he obviously he's a generational talent. So, in my opinion, if your job is to build a competing team, you make a space for that, you make room for that, and you sign that. And if it cost you 11, it cost you 11. Wow, we spent a lot of time talking about Erik Karlsson. I am shocked that he stayed out west after that news story a few weeks ago. Absolutely shocked.
Yeah, I mean, but again, was that just baiting? Is it what I'm shocked that after all the news stories, after all the talk about Montreal, the talk about Ottawa, all those things, that not only did he stay in San Jose, he stayed in San Jose for 11 million.
This year's injury was a groin injury.
Yeah,
injuries, plural.
Like it's just. My question.
The only way he was
not only that, it required surgery. I'm looking at that now. It's one thing to have a groin. So that was his second surgery in as many years. One to his Achilles, and the other to his groin. Now again, I'm a fucking fan of Erik Karlsson.
His Achilles was a while ago.
Karlsson.
His Achilles was probably 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah. His Achilles, I think, was around 2012. I think was the season he had. It was coming back from the lockout. I think he only played like a dozen or so games coming back from the lockout. I don't have it right in front of me anymore. But I think he only played like 12, 15 games.
In the end, all these big contracts for these guys, they shove out the middlemen, right? Like Luke Adam. That's what happens because you get these young guys on their first contract and you hope to fill in the blanks with a lot of, like, ever notice all these young players? It wasn't the way it was for my era. Yeah. But you get these guys for, like, the Leafs are going to have to do it. They're going to have to, like, they get rid of Marleau and then bring one of those other young kids up. Yeah. Whoever it might be. What was the other Connor Brownish type of player,
they're going to get rid of Connor Brown, too.
Yeah, well, when he came in, he was like a decent chip. He had decent numbers in junior. He was okay, and he was playing for $500,000. It's going to be, there's a lot of that. You're losing people that all of a sudden are out of their first contract, and if you sign them, well, the middlemen like Luke, and they're going over to Mannheim and these places.
It's the same thing. I mean, both of us work in the film industry, and it's the same thing in the film industry. Like, right now, all you get is either like small nickel and dime, like micro low budget movies, or fucking tentpole superhero blockbusters. The $30 million movie that we used, like, that you kind of lived on through the 80s and 90s, all these kind of movies that had like healthy budgets are gone. There's no middle anymore. Yeah. It's either like no budget or $100 million. Like, there's nothing in the middle, and that's the same thing that's happening here. You have all these generational players making 8+ a year. Or you've got guys on entry levels pulling like 575, whatever the fuck.
I'll tell you guys, we're talking about it, and I'm going to tell you right now, you guys are both right, and it's probably going to cost us, if not another year of hockey, I'd say another chunk of a season with the CBA expiring soon. I mean, the report came out yesterday that it's pretty much all about league escrow. I'm not completely 100% sure the letter to the law, but I know that I don't think that the Vegas money that went into the league qualified as league escrow.
So, you know what? I think we've been going now for 10 minutes on something that if I was a listener, I'd probably tune out at some point. So
fair enough.
We're talking about specifics.
I've been rolling through.
I'm with you. I'm as guilty. I'm the one brought it up.
All right. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a second. We're gonna listen to a word from the good people at Head Check Health, and then we'll come back and we'll figure something else out to talk about that'll hopefully be more entertaining.
Concussions are serious business. Concussions and post-concussion syndrome had a huge effect on my career. Whether you're a player, a concerned parent, a coach, a risk manager, or an executive, they're a major area of concern. HeadCheck Health has developed software and services that improve the way concussions are assessed, tracked, and managed at all levels of sport. Their goal is to create a safer environment of play by giving better tools to the individuals responsible for documenting and assessing concussions and providing better data to administrators to make real health and safety improvements. HeadCheck currently works with organizations across the country like the Canadian Junior Hockey League, BC Hockey, Rugby Ontario, the Western Lacrosse Association, and more to advance their concussion management practices. If you're interested in learning more how HeadCheck can help your team or organization, please visit headcheckhealth.com or email info@headcheckhealth.com. That's headcheckhealth.com or info@headcheckhealth.com and tell them TR sent you.
All right, so
I won't. I promise I won't bring up escrow anymore.
But one thing we do have to talk about is that
I honestly don't. Yeah. I'm just not. I didn't mean to say that it wasn't entertaining.
No. It's
not. As soon as you hear the word escrow, you're like, okay, we're
extreme nerdy. It's extreme. If you want to talk about league escrow, at me on Twitter.
Okay. And I mean, the other thing is like, yeah, there's a bunch of other podcasts that will delve deeper into this sort of stuff. That's not who we are. What we're gonna do is currently deal with my distress. We haven't addressed the elephant in the room. The last time we recorded was immediately prior to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, and then Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final happened. I'm a little better. My hand's still. I punched a wall. My hand's a little bit better now, but it's still kind of bruised up. Along with my heart.
That's
what
sad.
a fucking shit show of a game that
but
was.
I tell you what,
oh my God.
I'm not gonna dunk on you or anything.
You run into a hot goalie sometimes.
Yeah, hey boy.
But it's, you know what, and Binnington played fucking lights out, and yeah, the fact that Binnington set the record, won 16 games as a rookie, shut out that Bruins team for 2 and most of a third period. All that shit. I mean, the fact that he didn't let anything in that first period alone, just how the Bruins came on with that onslaught, is fucking insanity to me. The fact that he didn't win the Conn Smythe after all that just boggles my fucking mind. I know O'Reilly played well, but come the fuck on. Without Binnington, you're not there.
You see his quote? after the game?
I didn't.
I didn't spend. Oh, I guess you would have turned everything off. He said, "I didn't spend $6,000 on tickets for my friends and family to lose." And man, what?
Well, and O'Reilly bought that fucking guitar for the kid earlier that morning.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, there's a lot of great stories. Look,
I said last week before the game, I just said, if it was anybody other than the Bruins, I'd be rooting for the Blues because of all the storylines that were just too great to follow. But here's the part that everybody's been waiting for. Not only was it a hot goaltender, it was with there's two things that really pissed me off in the first period. One is that I guess CBC or Sportsnet, whoever was doing like the main coverage, I guess it was like Hockey Night in Canada, put up a time since last shot.
Yeah, I saw that.
They put a clock up in the corner that counted how long, and it was just minutes. Like it's 16. It broke 16 minutes.
Fuck.
And then in the span of a couple seconds, the Blues scored. As soon as they got their first shot, they scored on like their second one.
That's like saying if you saw a guy that had the puck on his stick a lot, time with puck. Yeah. It's just a personal stat. Like, I know it was that long, but that means that this goal, like Binnington plays on the team. A lot of people say, well, if it wasn't for the goalie, I'm not saying that's what you're saying. Yeah. A lot of people I talk to, well, Boston were the better team. I'm like, I don't get it though.
No,
like,
no.
If someone beats, if the Oilers, say in the 80s, the high scoring Oilers, and they won 6-4 and Gretzky had 5. Well, if Gretzky wasn't on the team, but Gretzky is on the fucking team.
That's such a funny sentence. Like, the Bruins were the better team, but it's like
no, they were.
They weren't.
And I'm not somebody who was going to say that the Bruins were the better team. What I'm saying is that most of the Bruins outplayed most of the Blues for most of the first period. Once that clock went up, I just sat there and I went, they're gonna score a dumb fucking goal off like their first shot.
Yeah, well,
to break this.
And the longer that went, without Boston scoring, the longer it doesn't matter if they got 30 in a row. The longer it favored because or St. Louis, and
that's exactly it. It went from being like, oh fuck, the Bruins have kept them without a shot for this long, and I'm like, oh fuck, the Bruins have kept them without a shot, but they haven't fucking scored.
So, the boys on St. Louis are on the bench going, okay, boys, it's our turn soon.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just stay with it. It's our turn soon.
And so that really pissed me off. The other thing that pissed me off, and you guys know what I'm going to talk about, is just...
First of all, I want to say one word before your sentence comes up. I'm looking at you. I don't know what you're going to say. We've talked about one thing a lot here, and maybe I'm wrong with this assumption, but I'm going to say hashtag karma. Now, you tell me what I think you were going to tell me.
It might be the karma thing, because I don't understand how you can be in Game 7 of the Cup Final, be down 1-0, look up, see that there's less than 15 seconds left in the first period, and decide that's a good time to go for a fucking change.
Because I tell you this, and if I'm on that team, I'm telling you, it burns me a bit, and I'm upset. I know what you're going to say. I think Marchand's a great player. I really do. But when you act like that and you make it about yourself and you make it personal, it sets yourself up for disaster. And when you fall hard.
So if I'm thinking of a bunch of other teams. So obviously, yes, the Brad Marchand situation. Obviously, he's got a history, and the second something is about you in a negative way, it's amplified to 1 billion because you're Brad fucking Marchand.
Yep.
If that was a dozen other players, there'd already be trade rumors now. Oh my God, there'd already be trade spec and trade rumors and be like, that's the last straw. You know, he's been a distraction would be a word used a lot. Distraction
100%.
would be.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
I never saw any of that. But I mean, there's one guy I can think of. I won't name him because I think he's going to get traded this summer. There's one guy I could think of if it was another team and he did that. And I've seen him do a bunch of bad changes before, maybe he had the same thing happen to him this year in the playoffs.
Don't say what I think you're going to say. Which player is that?
I'm talking about Kadri.
I was thinking you were talking about Kadri.
Yeah, that was Nas Kadri because he's already been traded. In my opinion, he will get traded this summer. Very, very, they play on an edge. When they cross the edge, obviously you play so long on that edge. Once you cross it,
well, the difference there is that Marchand is just a little bit better, a lot better.
A lot better.
So you give the guy a leash. I don't think he would be there. And I tell you this. There's something else going out. We're on the same subject. I'm not going too far off. But did you see the picture of him partying with the fucking goggles on, with no shirt at the club? You must know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we got tagged. A couple people sent it to us. It got tagged. I watched one of them.
Just watch it after this. So he's got his. So they call it the Boston non-party or whatever it was. So afterwards, he's up on someone's shoulders, no shirt on. It's obviously clearly a dance club. There's fucking lights going on, a big American
after
flag.
they fucking lost.
So he's got the goggles on, right? And he's looking at the camera and he's drinking. He's posing for these pictures. Now, some people say, well, to me it's just okay. Let me get my fucking breath. So people, I've looked at that and I've said, I get it that you don't have to stay bad forever. You don't have to stay pissed off forever. Some people have looked at it and said, let him unwind. He just went through a long. I get that, but would you choose to unwind like that, though, to put yourself... No. You're making it about yourself again. I can totally see boozing. I can see going out with the boys. I can even see partying. Get the phones out of my fucking face. I just lost Game 7, and it's my fault.
Yeah,
He's up on someone's shoulders. Oh, like he's full on. Like it looks like a fucking rave party. I don't want to put words in. If he's like that, the only thing I'm thinking, he's fucking either juiced, which I don't want to say stoned. I don't want to, but it's one of those rave looking party things. And to me, I don't put myself in that position. If I just lost and it's my fault for all the boys, I get it. I get the unwinding. I'm not even really pissed off. It's just to me, it's a typical Brad Marchand move.
I'll say unprofessional. I'll say very unprofessional. Not a good teammate.
That's all. It just was a bad optic.
It wasn't actually just after Game 7 though, or is it someone digging it up from a few years back?
I don't know.
How do we know?
I've seen the same video posted a couple times. The only one I've seen is him on a bar in like a pair of shorts and a ball cap, kicking off his flip flops and just doing some dumb dance. There's nothing to me that, like, for one, I can't even see for sure that it's Brad Marchand. But yeah, it's implied that it's.
Here, I'll show you.
Yeah.
Here it is. So Mike, fill in the dead air, will you, while I show...
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the one I found is it got sent to us, and it's the same video I'm seeing right now, but I haven't seen the other one, so I've been told there's other videos of it. Either way, I agree.
I feel the internet would have blown up at I've been trying to spend less time on it.
And that's why I'm just kind of like, is it something like, is it from this past week?
Well, what got me was they said it was this party there, and he's got those goggles on. So you figure they were maybe the goggles were there in case they won. But I'm speculating way too much. And you know what though? I tweeted that it's not on there anymore. Maybe someone took it off.
Because the other thing is like, yeah, like I'm not seeing in the one I'm seeing is I don't see his face in it.
Okay, yeah.
And I mean, like his face is hard to fucking miss.
Taking down the one that I thought. So anyway, maybe I'm spending too much time. I'm talking about something that no one even knows.
And yeah, everything I'm seeing is him back on, so it's like impossible to like confirm whatever. But like, it's also like what, like, how do we know for sure? Like, it's like a fucking kidnapping. Like, unless I see, unless he's dancing on the bar holding today's newspaper, I don't really give a fuck. You know, like, it's one of those like,
if he's that stupid, it's like, hang on, we're gonna get a video. Do you mind, Brad?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I don't care. I'm partying up. We just lost.
You
Hold
know?
up. Here's today's daily
In any
press.
case, I get that the guy was just partying. Just for me, it's just one more little pinch to make it about myself.
Oh, totally.
Make it about
Yeah.
me, right? You see if they were all there and they were sitting. It's just something else to make me not. I just don't love the guy. I don't love the guy, man. I guess if I was on his team, I'd have to learn to play with him. But I'd fucking sit the motherfucker down and just say, I don't like you.
I'm
Here's the thing is like you're saying is like I'm somebody who very much does think this loss is all about him, because if that fucking Bruins team, after the way they played in the first period, if they had come out down 1-0 as opposed to 2-0 on a bullshit goal that shouldn't have happened, because Marchand shouldn't have been going to the bench. He shouldn't have been back there. If he was going to be back there, he should have played his fucking man and shouldn't have let it happen. But if that Bruins team comes out, they can come. That team can come back from a 1-0. But it was the various daggers that went in. So we do have you have found video of it,
and he shaved pretty quick. I'll say this.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe it's not. What do you think? It says it is on Twitter. You can't trust social media. And if it is, I get it. He's only partying. Me, I wouldn't make it about myself. It seems a little excessive for just being your fault. You lost in Game 7.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to pin it all on him. It's a team, but I don't know. It looks to me a little bit unprofessional.
But the thing is like you're saying, I think if it was something you could track to prove that it happened in this last week, it would have probably blown up more.
I think the people that run these teams aren't absolute morons. I think if that got out, they'd find it, and they would probably have a better idea if it was this year or not.
And you know what? Yeah. From there, I've made my point. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was.
Let's try to have a Brad Marchand free summer now.
Well, that's it. I'll leave it at. I wanted to point out my biggest thing from all of that was karma. And he put himself out there. When you fall fucking hard. And it's his fault. Game 7. I don't care how many parties he goes to. I don't care how many fucking glow sticks he puts in his mouth, and how many times he takes his shirt off on other people's shoulders and laps and parties. That fucking affected you motherfucker, and you fucking lost it. Fuck you. Well, you take the good with the bad, man. You're going to sit here and fucking cheap shot guys and lick them and kiss them and spear them in the nuts and fucking sit there and poke Marner on Twitter and all this bullshit. Well, you eat this shit sandwich, you motherfucker, because it's your fault we lost in Game 7. Sit the fuck down and shut the fuck up. That's how I feel. Go ahead.
Wow. Not a big Brad Marchand guy.
Again, no, I'm not. Go ahead.
As the one of us that's actually a Bruins fan, ditto. Everything you just said, I feel the exact same fucking way. I'm just like so rattled by it's just, and again, it was just from a team that was so dominant in so many ways in like, through the first 3 rounds, and just the way they kind of turned, like the way they looked against Carolina, like I was just like, okay, like this is going to be fun, like, and even when they got down by a goal at home, I was like, no, it's fun, they're still out playing. But when that one happened, I was just like, oh, we're fucked now, that's it, that's done. And then they just, nobody seemed to want it.
Can we talk about something fun? Can we talk about Brett fucking Hall during the finals?
Oh my God!
Holy Christ!
Oh my God! I think he up to this point, the whole reason he's had dual citizenship is so he could be the drunkest man in both Canada and the United States.
Oh my Lord!
I
thought of him because he was twisting his nipples at the parade.
Yeah, he was doing that. I've seen a picture of him doing that in the rink in a suit during Game 7.
Oh my Lord!
I've had beers with him twice. First of all, guys, listen to this. So when I played in Boise, Idaho, for the Idaho Steelheads, I told you last week, it's when I met Bill Buckner.
Yeah.
Ball player. So on that season now, this is going to be too much to take in and believe. We had a bar right next to the rink where everybody hung out at. There was maybe 3. Boise's not that big. It's maybe a little bit smaller than St. John's in the metro area, maybe 100, 150,000. I'm not too far off there. Not as quite as big of a downtown, but getting there. And some nice restaurants, and there's a bar. It's called the Dublin Up, Dublin, Up, obviously.
Clever pun.
Up, UP, yes. The point being, it's a pun. So I come out, and they're a sponsor for the bar, or for the team. So I'm there maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, and we're going for a pint. I figure we're better than the Dublin Up. I walk in, and I see this fella coming out, and it's almost like watching The Simpsons, the first episode, where like the stencils, they're not quite Homer and Bart, but this guy looks really familiar. And I'm looking at him. He goes, "You're a hockey player." He said, "You're Terry." I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm Bart Hull. Not Brett, Bart." Now, there's Brett and obviously Bobby and Hull. And there's, I believe, I'm not sure if Jody was related, but there is another Hull. And I forget what he or she, whatever it is, there's another sibling. I can't remember. I believe that also was very successful. So, and I think at hockey. So, whatever it was, Bart was down there, and the Boise State Broncos, he'd had a college scholarship to play football there years and years before that, and he ended up staying in Boise. So he had this bar called the Dublin Up, and and it was the year of the Salt Lake City fucking Olympics. So we jumped in with him to go down. Like I had beers with Brett more than one time that season. So boys, listen, we go to the Dublin Up after a couple of games there, and I'm not kidding you. This is before Twitter and everything, so my phone rings, and it's Alan Doyle with Great Big C.
Yeah.
And he's driving from Seattle, like, tour the States. And he says, "I see, like, are you in Dallas?" He said, I thought I saw you in Boise, right? You had to, like, pay attention to the news and shit then. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's their farm team. I'm in Boise. Are you guys coming through? He says, "We're playing there in a couple nights." I didn't fucking know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, perfect. So he plays, and then we went over to the Dublin Up afterwards, the Bart Hull's play. I mean, Bart was a great guy. I ended up hanging out with him all year. I probably, if anybody out there is a line on Bart Hull, fucking let me know, because I'd love to talk to him. We just fell out of touch. But anyway, he came to all our games, and he phones. So he goes, "Tell the boys to come over." So he gets this local crowd to come over. This was after a game that Alan was coming through, so they met us. We stayed up. We're boozing. He fucking locked the door and had all Boise fans in there, all Idaho Steelheads fans, the whole team. And the boys came through, and Great Big C, they came in. They sat down with us. They got up off their tour bus, and they got up on stage and sang a few tunes. This was like 3 a.m. Luke Adam would have loved it. It was... Again, recorded the interview before. You'll see what I mean. But anyway, yes. So, and fucking, we had a great time. I got up. I'll never forget it. I sang "Allison" by fucking Elvis Costello.
What a tune!
Loaded.
10 out of 10 tune.
And it ain't as easy to think. Like usually, I do "Johnny Be Good" or something. You can't really fuck it up, right?
Yeah.
Deep down in Louisiana. I mean, it's really hard. It's just one like note the whole time through. But "Allison" was way harder than I thought. Although I did know the words, it was a bit of fun, and that was unbelievable. And Bart Hull, man, he owned that bar. And he took us down because the Olympics that year were in Salt Lake City, which wasn't far from, when I say he took us, because Boise, Idaho is, on terms of like, you know, Toronto to Pittsburgh and those areas, it's far. It's probably like 4 or 5 hours. But in that area of the world, there's not that many big cities around it. It's just like we all just packed up, went down, and we partied with Brett Hull and some more, and it was just fucking unbelievable. And he was just like that. He was just like, it seemed to be, we went down like a couple days before and a couple days after, and they were just all there like partying with the boys. And the Team USA had a real fucking close connection. And they welcomed us, right? They were just pumped to see some hockey players. So we went down telling stories, hanging out with them all weekend. Shout out to Bart Hull. But Brett was unfucking believable. He's the kind of guy that'd be sitting there and you'd ask him a story and he's like senior, like he'll tell a 20-minute story. And I'm looking behind me going like, he doesn't know who I am. Like, why is he so concerned that I care about this? Which I did, but like, he's very passionate, and you can he was so loaded in the fucking interview or the fucking when he was on stage with the Blues there that I could tell like he wanted to say so much, but he couldn't get the words out. And that was my exact memory of Brett Hull hanging out with him a couple times with Bart.
Oh, that's incredible!
Amazing.
Yeah, you never know, right? Boise, Idaho.
Oh man,
all of those GT racers, man, if they could talk now.
Oh yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
Oh man, those snow racers that everybody had that Brett Hull poster with the GT snow racer.
Yeah. I never got the St. Louis Blues edition one, the white and blue one.
No.
I just got the black one. I remember on Christmas Day, my dad, me and my brother got matching ones, and my dad took one look out of the box and saw the brakes. And said, "Oh, I'll take care of that." Goes out in the garage, gets a ratchet, hauls the brakes clean off them, and he's like, "I ain't having you two tearing up your snowsuits with that." So we had brakeless GTs. He's like, "I ain't having you two tearing up your snowsuits with the likes of that."
That's incredible.
Oh yeah, showing up
part
on
of
the hill.
my favorite hockey pun too, Hull and Oates. Because I love the band Hall & Oates.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Hall & Oates was worthy of mentioning both players, because Adam Oates was one of the best passers I've ever seen with my own eyes in my own life, or in my whole life. And he would set up the best scorer of the era, who Brett was scoring like outlandish numbers, like 60 and 70 goals. So it was great to watch those guys growing up. But I love that Hall & Oates, because they were they were a great combo. And things like that are also why it was great for St. Louis to win. They've had a lot of great history.
They have.
I remember watching Al McGinnis wind up. I remember fucking Chris Pronger. You can go on and you can go back, but I'm not going to bore everybody with every single player that played. But, right back to Gary Unger and these guys, like real solid fan base with a real set of heroes to get behind, except they didn't have that cup, right? Some teams, like even if I said Columbus, Rick Nash, it's hard to really come up with great storylines over the years. St. Louis had lots of them. They were in the Stanley Cup Final 3 years. It just happened to be their first 3 years. It was fucking 40 or 50 fucking years ago, whenever it was. But, they have had great stories.
It was 50 years ago. It was that dumb thing when the NHL first did their expansion.
Yeah.
They put all the expansion teams in the one fucking conference.
Well, looking back, that probably did drum up interest, though.
Oh, I would
probably
imagine. I think the part of the expansion was one expansion team was guaranteed a trip to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like if you're an investor.
At the time, it probably would have sucked. But looking back, that's probably where that fan base came from. If they came in and got waxed 3 years in a row, they might be fucking gone.
Yeah, because what teams from that expansion pack are left that haven't relocated, haven't gone?
I mean, at the same time as Buffalo, or is Buffalo a little bit
L.A.
before?
I think is L.A.
When did Philly come in?
L.A. and Philly.
Because there was a big WHA one too. They absorbed 8 teams in the late 70s.
Yeah, there was also another block of expansion where they brought in like
guys,
Vancouver and shit in the 70s.
Another thing, Wayne Gretzky played for St. Louis. That's another great part of their history.
It's
like,
amazing how many
things.
It's amazing how many Gretzky jerseys there are, because I think he played less than 40 games there.
Well,
yeah.
He did, yeah. He played the last part of that one season. I think maybe only 20.
And he just didn't get along with the coach.
Well, he was a free agent too.
Yeah. Oh, Mike.
No, he knew Keenan. He was a free agent though, and he wanted to play on the Rangers. He went there. I think even when he went to St. Louis, they realized he might be a rental player, and they were thinking they had a good enough team around him. Now that was that famous goal that knocked him out in Game 7 to Yzerman on Fjord. Right, if Yzerman doesn't, didn't they win that year?
That was the year they lost to Colorado.
Detroit did, but they lost in the final.
No, conference final.
Yeah, you're right. How could
Because they were in the West.
Yeah, Philly went to the final to play Colorado.
Also, I'm a fucking idiot. It was the 67 expansion class was the Kings, the North Stars, the Seals, the Flyers, the Penguins, and the Blues.
Well, the Seals are
most of those teams are still fucking
So that was
going.
a pretty good decision looking back.
Yeah.
It was probably an easy ride for some of the teams that they had to play against, but whatever.
Well, that was it. Is until Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals this year, they had never won a Cup final game.
Wow.
Yeah,
like they played 3 cups and they got swept in every one of them.
I got to think Buffalo is the longest team without a cup. Period. They don't have a cup. Correct? They've been around a while. They just haven't won.
They definitely don't have a cup.
No. I think someone told me Brett Hall was celebrating so hard because he knows his first cup with Dallas doesn't count because of the foot in the crease goal. Yeah, I think that's as close as they got.
Wild that he got 2, right?
It's it'd be Buffalo and Vancouver. They both came in at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So neither one of them have a cup. But
Vancouver has been in 3.
Like
finals?
I said, you go right back now. The odds every year when it starts is 1 in 32. 1 in 30. I was going to say 131 now, 1 in 32 soon. So you're not guaranteed one for a long, long time, if at all, man.
I know anything.
Never guaranteed one.
If I know anything, on January 1st, I'm betting $100 on the last team in the league every year from now until they're putting a few fucking shovelfuls on me when I'm dead.
You know you've got a decent chance.
Oh my
at this
God!
point,
There's so many stories of people that won this year.
At this point, just the way all the rules are coming down, it's honestly not a bad idea to not bet on the favorite. I'll never bet. In the last 2 years, I will never bet on the fucking premium horse again.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just every year. That's going to be my New Year's Day tradition. Just go on and for
I was
the last
so
team,
fucking set on Tampa Bay. Have we even said those words in months?
We haven't
the
talked
Tampa Bay
about it.
Lightning to me are like the fucking Florida Panthers. Like
Remember-
they just finished. They just set records in the NHL.
Yeah.
As we talk about the summary of the season, they're not even in my playbook.
One of the all-time, I think they're top 3 all-time greatest regular seasons, and they haven't played hockey in 2.5 months.
That would be like 20th on the storyline list this year.
What a cliff, eh?
Yeah.
Imagine.
Just plummet.
And now it starts again next year, and it's all the same. It's
all
you start
about the hype
all at the
train.
beginning again, and you got to make sure not to get injured, and not make sure not to, but you've got to have everything go right for those things to happen. Kucherov and Stamkos could have a broken leg and a broken arm 2 games in, and you're fucked.
Stamkos has one of each already.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the other thing, man. It makes for intriguing storylines, I suppose, and who am I to sit here and complain? Although, like Ron McLean, I do like dynasties. I like them.
Ron has an excellent quote in his book about that, actually.
He does, and
says
he's the
John,
first person I saw
John,
argue
Paul,
against.
Ringo, and George, not John, Paul, and then 2 guys they can fit under the cap, which is the quote, which I always took away from that.
And that's a great quote,
Yeah.
and he does, and he was the first one I heard like really rally against it, and he said, well, think about it. He said, like, think about you. What did you enjoy growing up? What was some of your favorite time watching hockey? I'm like, well, like the Islanders and the Oilers. I was born in '77, so when I was 3, the Islanders were starting their 4-year run, and then the Oilers in the late '80s. So you saw all these great players on all these great teams, and I mean Gretzky to Anderson to Curry to Coffey to Messier to Tikkanen. You're going like, oh my God, Kevin Lowe, and you're looking at all these guys out there now. If they were all dispersed all throughout the league, I don't know that. I'm not saying I hate it because St. Louis just won, but he's got a point. Right, and those '70s fucking Montreal. Anybody a little bit older than me would probably say the late '70s fucking Montreal.
If you were
Canadiens.
born in
Yeah,
1970, you would have made it into your mid-teens and only had seen 3 teams win the cup.
Yeah,
That's it.
That's fucked. But the other thing is, like, when we even talking about like modern dynasties, like, if you like, the only team I think that, like, you know, Pittsburgh is close. They had back-to-backs, but the Chicago team that won 3 or 4 over
3 and 5, I think.
3,
it was 3 in the
something
span
like
of 5
that.
years or something.
And I mean,
they never
It's the
did
biggest thing to
back-to-backs,
me.
though. They didn't do.
but again, you can't do that same sort of thing that you just did with the Oilers, because it's. I mean, watch, like, who besides Kane and Taves do you really have
And
on
there's-
that, oh my God, the Chicago Dynasty
and
team?
you know what? When they
right?
did
Besides
it,
those 2 guys,
even though
who's really there?
No, you're right. Sorry to cut you off. If there was, the thing is, there was 21 teams, and even though only 32, let's say in a year, that's only 11 more, but it's 11 more. It's all that, like, so to me, it's just the teams. Like, we're not going to go back because leagues want to make money.
Yeah.
So, like, let's say in 20 years and 30 years, like, there's going to be 50 teams. It might even be global in the NBA and the MLB and the NHL and the NFL. It's all possible. Someone is going to go there. You're going over to China to play at the beginning of every year in all these sports. You're going over to Europe. Lukey just told us. Well, he will tell us shortly. I assume he's going to tell us about the year that they went overseas and played in Buffalo, played in Germany.
You know,
there's a reason for all these things.
He scored the first goal of the season over there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I got a funny feeling I'm going to forget to ask him about that.
Yeah, we might just ignore that question.
Yeah.
But so I just don't see it getting any easier because I never see any less teams than there are now. They're not just going to wake up one day and say, you know what, let's just go to 20 teams. There's going to be at least 32. And, you know, in 5 years of this, people are going to get complacent and say, you know, we could have 2 divisions of 20 easily. And then they're going to add like 8 teams. And you're going to see that the word dynasty is going to quickly just remove itself from our lexicon.
I think before we get to that, before we get to like 40 teams and stuff like that, you're going to see. I think that 32 is probably going to be the last expansion for a while, and you're going to see
For a while.
I think you're going to see sweeping relocations soon. I think you're going to see,
so.
And that's when I know my dad. This is the first year in a long time that he didn't follow the playoffs until the finals. Well, he followed the Leafs, but until the finals because he really wanted to see a team that he grew up watching. He's a big Glenn Hall, the goalie fan. He grew up watching. Win a cup because they hadn't done it before. But he said, I just can't keep track. He's like, there's 31 teams, about 30 players on a team. He said, if you had to ask me who the hell has the most points in the last, 8 years each time, he's like, I got Crosby, Ovechkin. If those aren't 1 and 2, he's like, I haven't got a clue who else is left.
Well, I'll tell you two things. But that to his point on, like, if I wasn't so far invested into hockey, I would find it hard to get into. And that's why it was so easy. Like, I talk about you guys, a couple years ago, I went up and I get the odd gig on Sportsnet in Toronto, so I tried to well-round my sports knowledge, and I followed all the sports. I found basketball easiest to get into because there's only 5 guys out there at once with a short bench. So I found that easier. I can't imagine trying to remember 20 to 25 guys and all the prospects, because some of these teams in hockey, it's not like basketball where you get up immediately and you're like starting. In hockey, you might have this guy brought up halfway through the year that's a magician, like Suzuki next year at Montreal. He might not start there, but at some point he's going to come in, and you're going to have to realize, you're going to have to be a fan to realize that this guy in the 41st game of the year is a real good junior player.
How many fellas tuned into that last game of the year just to see Ryan Poehling?
Totally.
I mean,
right?
So many people. The hype train on that was so real, and then he goes out and pots 3 goals.
For fans that know the difference.
For fans,
for a guy like your dad,
guys
maybe
that are,
not.
Well, he was like, how come? My dad's first question was, how come he only played one fucking game and the Habs never made the playoffs?
Yeah.
And the other thing with that too is like it's not just hopping on the hype train to like watch Ryan Poehling play. He just happened to have his first game be Bob Cole's last.
Yeah.
So I mean, he got that was.
But that was the first thing my
Even
dad
your
asked.
dad has a little bit of an idea.
Yeah,
Just imagine someone that doesn't know much about hockey at all.
Well,
It would be
like,
hard.
He was like myself when, he was probably my age. He was super invested into a league, but it was a league that had maybe 20 teams, and he's...
I find hockey to be similar to baseball that way. Like a guy like Vlad Guerrero can come up, and I just find the other sports don't have an identifiable minor league that's worth. I know the St. John's Edge are there, but no one's sending down fucking And
that's the thing
Irving.
it's not a
feeder
farm
league.
club.
It's not a
Yeah,
feeder
it's
league.
not a farm club.
The second thing I was going to point out, though, guys, as long as we're predicting futures and how many teams, I think it will be a while. I never think it's going to go backwards. I think you're going to take it into account.
You'll get people to buy a team and move it.
Yeah,
Like,
and
someone's going to Houston soon. I can tell you within 5 years.
I think more so than that. I think all the sports eventually. I hope hockey does it first, but it's definitely going to go global. You could have a division in Russia, or let's just say the league that Luke plays in. Okay, first of all, it ain't that bad. And Mannheim on the odd night, you're going to think I'm nuts. The way hockey is now and everything with the parity, they might run into a hot goalie. What are you going to do? You're not going to get 100 shots, right? They're going to be way better, but they might give them a game. Now, take some of those NHLers, change the fucking rules, let the protected list go down a little bit. Now put 3 or 4 NHLers on all those teams. And I think you could easily make the DEL in itself, it's already packaged. You see, you don't have to go into fucking Japan and invent the game and then try to teach everybody. It's already packaged in Russia. It's already packaged in Sweden. It's already packaged in Switzerland, Austria, Germany. And you could have I'm not saying I'm even going. I'm saying maybe the North American part could be the Stanley Cup, and then you go for a World Cup.
And that's
But
what I was
think
going to
it's
say.
coming.
Think that's what I think is going to be what happens. Is that you're not going to expand by 1 or 2 teams, whatever. You're going to take 8 or so as a chunk, or you're going to do what you just said and have a particular league over there that partners, and the Stanley Cup champion and the whatever Cup champion play for a World Cup. That's the way it's going to. I think that's the way it's going to begin, and I think further integration will happen from there of the 2 leagues to the point that it's all considered like whatever.
And from there,
I
you
think
could
that's where
speculate
it
it could go wherever.
Yeah.
Then at some point, you could have like the fucking Champions League in soccer. I think soccer do it right, by the way. I really do. They play. It'll never happen like that in hockey because you got feeder systems. But like you have a league, and the top 2 teams go up in the bottom league, and the bottom 2 go down. I like the Champions League, where the fucking champion of each league plus I think the second place team get in to play against each other. But I do see it going that way, and a lot of people maybe that only follow in North America. Some people listen to this show are Junior B fans. Some people are NHL fans. Some people don't understand. What I'm saying is that I've seen it with my own eyes. The first complaint, people go, well, they don't have the money. Yes, they do.
They do.
A lot of these teams do.
I think the big thing is we're going to see sweeping change. I think the NHL is just interested in easy money. That sounds like I think the current NHL model is just very interested in easy
That'll
money.
evolve.
And definitely. Yeah. So I don't think it's that soon, but the current NHL is headed by a bunch of people who are, let's face it, they're a couple of years at best, 5 at best away from retiring. So there will be sweeping change when that happens.
Yeah, I can see that. I also see like from a logistical standpoint, it's legit now. Like I think if you'd done it 20 or 30 years ago, there were great European players, but the game is really, really growing. And I'll take Switzerland, for example. They opened their doors to imports. The Swiss league in the 80s wasn't very good, right? Then in the 90s, they opened the doors to more imports. Canada, a lot of Canadians are over there playing. A lot of Canadians stay locally. Who doesn't like Switzerland? It's similar to Canada. And they have kids. Now all of a sudden, and now not only the import doors open, but these kids are growing up over there. Now, every year, I think like 10 years ago or maybe 12, when Swiss won a game in the World Juniors, it was this big deal. Now, if they beat Canada, it's an upset. But we don't sit here and go, oh, that's Kazakhstan. Like, it's an upset, but Switzerland are pretty good, and Switzerland are only getting better, and I think that's happening. Look at Finland, boys. They were always pretty good. Now they're like dominant.
They're a powerhouse now.
Yeah.
Joe Thornton always said when he's done in the NHL, he's going to play in the Swiss leagues for a while because his wife is from there. Every lockout that has happened, work stoppage, he's gone over there, and he talks a lot. He talks a lot about hockey has come a long way over there.
It really has, and people, these guys make six figures.
Oh, yeah.
So it wouldn't be to adjust ticket prices. Maybe there's a lot of them that are making close to what they would in the NHL too, and however they work it. So the team pays the tax over there, right? So if you're offered $100,000, you get $100,000. And in the KHL,
really?
Yeah, and guys like the KHL even have superstars that are making millions. What's his name came back? Kovalchuk. He's in the NHL now, but these guys, Jagr, they disappear over there for a couple of years, and it's not like they get 150 points.
We're going to say he's in the NHL
there is some parity.
now.
Yeah, well, if Kovalchuk left
year.
the NHL as a 35-goal scorer, then he went to KHL. What do you have, like 27? What I'm saying is that if it's a lesser league and the players aren't there, you'll see these guys go over and get 200 points.
Yeah.
Right? But you're not seeing that at all. So, again, it's a global league now. The NHL has 600-700 players in it, I believe. I'm just doing the math top of my head, 800 at the most. But then, there's all kinds of, there's thousands and thousands, maybe 10,000s of players that could play there in a limited role.
Yeah.
So they're dispersed throughout the world, making money in other places, and the game's just getting bigger. I really do see it going that way at some point. I'm a traditionalist in some ways, but things have changed. Like, what is a traditionalist? A traditionalist is someone that, if you go baseball, the oldest sport there is, of the top four. What's a traditionalist? Someone that, goes back 100 years. Like, human history goes back. It constantly
I would
changes.
argue that a traditionalist is someone who thinks interleague play is the dumbest fucking shit in the league.
Okay.
I fucking hate interleague play.
Maybe there, but in any case, how long has interleague play been here now? 20 years?
25?
25.
Something like
that. And how long have we been hitting with the DH? 40?
Something like that, yeah.
Right. So every 20 years in baseball. So baseball's the oldest that I know of, late 1800s. But you can only go back so far. So there was never really a time in baseball that, then you go back to Ruth. Before that, there wasn't a fence. Yeah. Then Ruth was hitting fucking 60 home runs. The next guy was hitting 9. So he was way ahead of that game. And then came the Negro Leagues coming in, and the Negro League joining the MLB. So there never really was a time in any sport, to me, that there's been 30 years of
there's
status quo.
There's totally been eras, like even in baseball.
I don't think there's been 30 years of status quo in the NHL.
I don't
even in baseball, the more so than even than the regulation of fences and stuff. The lively ball era, when Ruth was hitting bombs and they changed the composition of what a baseball is made out of to make it go out of the park more, because they realized when Babe Ruth was just socking dingers all the time, people like home runs. And so then that went on for so many years, and then they started to expand a bit more. So then they brought in the DH. And the thing is I didn't mind interleague play when interleague play was first introduced. I didn't like it, but it was still just like a couple games a year here and there, whatever. Now any given night you can turn on and see whatever team from whatever league. I did
enjoy the when they were specific weekends.
Yeah,
and it was almost like a holiday weekend. You'd sit down and you'd go, okay, the Mets are playing the Yankees.
Event. It was
Wicked.
a special event.
Yeah.
Because the other thing with that I liked is because baseball was the only one and was the only one of those major sports where there's like definitive rules that are different going from the American League to the National League.
Yeah, that always fucked me up.
The DH, especially, because like you said, that's only been for a few years before that, was that was something that made the American League different than the National League, and I liked that the All-Star game defined who got home field advantage in the World Series, and then in the World Series /you had to play under whatever rules of what ballpark you were playing. So if you were in the American League, you played with the DH. When you were playing in the National League park, you had to figure out which of your fucking pitchers could hit if you were an American League team.
That's an idea I'd like the NHL to adopt.
And I loved that. And now it's not as much of a thing anymore, because not only do they have constant interleague play, I'm hearing tell that the National League wants to bring in the fucking DH.
Well, now listen, there's a couple things I want to comment on there. You made a great point. But my first one, just quickly to sum that up, that's where I was going at first. Like, people talk about baseball like it has the most traditionalists. It hasn't changed.
Yeah,
it's changed almost every 10 years. It's changed a lot. And I'll tell you the biggest thing I realize about I've not realized. Everybody realizes it, but what I find to be a major difference in baseball than all the other sports, and virtually nobody talks about it. Virtually nobody. For this sport that everything's got to be perfect, and it's 60 feet, is it, from first to second, and it's all inches and distances, and it hasn't changed.
60 feet to the mound, 90 to the bases.
Sorry. Yeah, 60 to the mound, 90 to the bases. I knew that. So, what my point is, in every field, they can make it different sizes.
Yeah, that blows my mind.
Now, can you imagine? You're in soccer, right? There's a grid that you have to play on. You're in the NHL. This is what our ice should be. You're in the NBA. I can't just make this. My basket's going to be fucking 15 feet. Yours is going to be 10. You can't do that. Yet in baseball, you can make the outfield as long. The infield has to be the same.
In whatever fucking shape you want it to be.
You can be the New York Yankees if you want right now, and push the fence in 10 feet, and you've got Stanton in your lineup, and now Encarnacion and fucking Judge, and you can easily change left field if you want. It doesn't. I don't get it. You can make it 300 feet if you want, and they're saying, well, everybody hits fair, but I'm like, I guess, but if the team that has fucking 81 home games probably has an advantage, and in something that in a sport that's so fickle about people and stats, and you're watching it and they're saying Babe Ruth's the best ever, and they're giving you all these reasons, and I'm not disputing that, but a lot of the traditionalists know these stats, and I'm like, the stats could change. Like, even in recent history, you can get a guy like Alex Rodriguez, just retired. I just threw him out there. He had a lot of home runs, say. But if he played in another stadium, say, for the last, or someone that, better yet, anybody that plays in Denver, right, where the ball carries, right, and the numbers are inflated, but it's like no one gives a fuck, to the point that, is it Houston? There's an incline.
Yeah, there's a hill. There's a
fucking hill.
I thought that is hilarious to me. That's
holy fuck! But how can you do that?
I don't know. But here's the one that's really fucked. And people talk about the traditionalists of it and stuff, and this is and these kind of like crazy outfield walls are more prevalent now. They're more common, but this I think you met this guy. I believe I saw it, but you can't tell me if Teddy Williams batted the other fucking way, they wouldn't have moved that green monster.
Yeah.
Right. Like if I see
what you're saying.
If he bats the other side and then he's batting against the green monster all the time, they're pulling that wall down sometime in the mid 40s.
Maybe, but you're talking about it like Ted Williams was like Babe Ruth in home run hitting. He had a 400 average, but he wasn't Mickey Mantle or Joe DiMaggio.
No, but still, I'm saying like when the guy with arguably like the best one of the best natural swings of all time, he can still hit homers and stuff. But I'm saying if their stud all-star incredible player is hitting against that wall all the time, they're gonna move that fucking wall.
I just can't believe it's still even there.
I honestly think they should go even better. Put like fucking tire traps and stuff in some outfields.
Put fucking fire and hula hoops and fucking grizzly bears.
Is there still
and fucking trapezes? But the other thing, to your point, you said
a hole covered with turf.
Wait 1 sec. You said about the green monster, yeah. So if I hit right, if I'm a right-handed batter in Boston, then I might. The monster's big and it makes up for a lot of room, but the outfielder can't get to the normal balls that would fall. So I might not get more home runs, but a lot of my balls are hitting halfway up there where the outfielder would be fucking catching it. So I probably get an extra 12 doubles. You know what the difference is between hitting 200 and 300 is a hit a week. Yeah. So like this is a fine line. So if you're playing in there and you're in the major leagues, you're probably dying to play in Boston. And I believe the Yankees is the other way. I believe I could be wrong, but I think it's right field that comes in a little bit.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But everywhere's different. Some fields, it's long all the way around, and those players are at a disadvantage. For an extra 5 feet, a guy like Giancarlo Stanton is probably getting an extra fucking 15 home runs on the season. Anyway, I just found that funny. Baseball's like a free-for-all. It's like a circus, and people talk about it like it hasn't changed in 150 years.
Oh, I want it more like the circus. Yeah. I want bears. You told me about bears. I want them. I want them.
And fence heights aren't regulated. Like none of it. It's fucking madness.
Imagine going
and I love
into
it.
Like an NHL rink and just saying, Arnett's the
first thing
Arnett's
I thought,
smaller.
The trapezoid behind the goalie. It's like, the trapezoid is huge behind our home net.
Our boards are a foot lower, and our boards and glass are a foot lower on one side and all this kind of shit.
Funny thing, we don't put ice outside the visitors' bench. There's actually a foot of concrete there. Be careful.
Yeah, be careful when you're hopping over. I'll tell you what, boys. Let's take a second now. Let's hear from one of our other sponsors, the good people at Miller Lite, and we'll come back in another couple minutes with our guest this week, Luke Adam, who's getting ready to welcome a new baby we found out. It's,
celebrating a birthday.
If you're listening on Tuesday, it's his birthday. And he's also celebrating a championship that he just won. So we're going to talk to him and all that after this word from the good people at Miller Lite.
Here's a few things to know when opening an ice-cold Miller Lite. They brew their beer to 90 calories and 3 grams of carbs per 355 milliliter serving. And they also brew for great taste. It's this great Pilsner taste that's made Miller Lite a favorite for our beer drinkers everywhere. Miller Lite, 90 calories, 3 grams of carbs. It's Miller time. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome to Third Man In podcast this week my buddy and fellow Newfoundlander, former St. John's Maple Leaf, midget AAA version, Fog Devil, Montreal Junior, Cape Breton Screaming Eagle, Portland Pirate, Buffalo Sabre, Rochester American, Springfield Falcon, Columbus Blue Jacket, Hartford Wolfpack, and Mannheim Eagle. And might I add an asterisk to Mannheim Eagle because I believe Luke just won a championship. In fact, I'm quite certain in Mannheim in the DEL. I believe that's what it's still called, the top league in Germany, which is one of the best leagues in the world. Luke, welcome. And how was it?
Oh, thanks, boys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, championship is amazing, man. It's something I'll never forget. This season was unreal, and all the hard work and all the crap you put up with going in all year long, and it's all worth it at the end. So it was a hell of a year for sure.
And I'm gonna get into why now because you've had a long, winding road. That's a lot of people I have on share some similarities, and we share a lot of similarities. The first one, Luke, I'm going to dial it all the way back. The first similarity that you and I have is that our fathers played professional hockey. Now, a lot of people know about my dad coming on this show and everything, but what they don't know is that Luke's father, Russ, played, I believe, 10 games. I could be wrong with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Was it 10?
I got 8 here.
8? Okay.
Yeah. 8, yeah.
Well, just there you go. It's
Crazy
only me,
8.
him, and Tran Sam that I know.
Another member of the Crazy 8.
Yeah, he's a member of the Crazy fucking 8s. Way to go, Russ. Now I love him a lot more. How the fuck did I not know that?
Yeah.
But anyway, but we have a great Newfoundland senior hockey league here, and it's up and down and back and forth. But most of the time, for the past say 40 years, the league has allowed imports. And even now, now they say they don't have imports, but Ryan DeRozier, for example, is an import that came in, found a job, and he's playing locally and winning Allen Cups and everything else.
It's an import with a click and a whistle at the end. It's like no imports.
Yeah. Exactly. So back in the 80s,
right.
And this was right after. So Russ had a pretty fantastic pro career. Look it up, Russ Adam, on there, Mike. Yeah. And the Newfoundland League at the time, it was no secret, were paying good money and setting players up, and a lot of people. Not only Russ, there was Bill Riley, who played in Washington, that I can think of. There was Mario Roberge, who in the middle of his senior career won a Stanley Cup.
Derek Sanderson had a tryout here and never made it.
Well, there you go. We'll get into that another time. There's more to that. Kevin Morrison, I can go down. It's right up until today, like 2 years ago, Aaron Asham flew into Gander to play on the weekends, and
right.
just fresh from the NHL. So back in the day, St. John's Caps, that's what happened. So Russ moved here to play hockey. Now, you can take me from there, Lukey, because I believe, I'm not sure, you were born here, right?
Yeah, I was born here. Yeah, so he was right at the end, kind of left the American League, and then he was in the IHL in Fort Wayne, and then that's kind of back when, the IHL had almost as many teams as the American League. They were kind of just, going off each other as the next level to the NHL. So he was in Fort Wayne, and then he was going to Europe. Actually, he was ready to go. Kind of his career had dried up a bit here, and Bill Riley, who was the guy he played with, and he won a Calder Cup with New Brunswick at the Hawks. And Riles called him, and Riles told him to come over. And they were they were paying more money to come play in Newfoundland then than they were in Europe. So he'll be honest with you, he didn't have a fucking clue where Newfoundland was back then. Before, there was basically, if you didn't look at a map, there's no internet. I feel like a lot more now guys are more familiar. But he ended up coming over. He always tells you, I went because he came late too, right around Christmas his first year. He said I was coming for 6 weeks, and he's been here 35 years now. He met my mom, and a good Newfoundland woman, and that's all that it took to lock him down. And he ended up staying. I think he played 5 years in the senior league, maybe 4. One of those or 2 of those, he was player coach. Did well. I went to an Allen Cup, and he loved it here. He had a great career here to finish off, and then he actually retired the year that before I was born. So his last year was right before I was born, and so I never got to see him play. But I've heard lots of stories and talked to lots of guys that I played with and against him, and like I said, he loves it here, and he still lives there. And my mom.
Well, listen, you're not going to believe this, but of course you would, of course it's totally believable. But I used to go, I'm one of the people, I went to every game. First of all, my father coached the Mount Pearl team entry into that league. The Mount Pearl Blades were in the league the same kind of years Russ were. They weren't always, but the late 80s till maybe the early 90s, the Blades had a team. And my dad had coached the junior Blades to a championship in Atlantic Canada. So then the seniors asked him to coach. And this was when it was at the peak of the imports. And my dad, I'd go to all the games. I remember, man, your dad was incredible. I remember another guy in the Caps, one of the imports, Richard Linteau. Riley, I remember being more than anything, he was tough because my dad had played in the IHL against him when he was with Dayton. My dad was with Kalamazoo. And so I remember that, and that was it. And Riley had an in to all these imports. Hilton Ruggles came over, and he played for like another 20 years. I can keep going, and I'm serious, guys. Like in 91, 92, Mario Roberge played on the Portabass Mariners, and they won the Hardy Cup, the B kind of. We went for the Allen Cup. We also went for the Hardy Cup, the B Canadian Championship, and they won it. And the next season, he won a Stanley Cup in Montreal. Wow. Montreal grabbed him right out of there, and he was tough, but he wasn't only a fighter.
It sounds like you'd have to be tough with that name, though.
Yeah, what his brother Serge Roberge was, and he was my first pro shift. Actually, we get into that some other time. I was with 2 of those guys on my wing. They ended up in the Montreal organization. But I remember that. And my father, there was another guy, Marcus Como. His father, Tony Como, played in that league, and he played for Mount Pearl at the time. And I remember my father just pointing out, because he was the coach, and he'd be like, "Look at Adam, and you want to look at this game? Look at Tony Como. Look at Richard Linteau. Robbie Forbes was another guy, Sidney Crosby's uncle. Robbie Forbes played for Cornerbrook, and he was an absolute magician.
Yeah. Played with Lemieux as well.
Yeah, man. There was a lot of great players. And let me tell you first, man, I'm telling you, Lukey, that your dad was incredible to watch. And I looked at him because I knew he played in the NHL. And that was in the days, guys, and I'd throw out, who else was great on that team? Andy Sullivan, a Newfoundlander who didn't really go away and play pro, but he had like 15 or 16 points, I think, in 32 or 33 games with the American Hockey League's St. John's Maple Leafs. They called him up from St. John's Caps maybe a few years after that. And, we can get into all that, but and the other thing, Russ ended up coaching the Baby Leafs for a little bit, assistant coach in the early 2000s. And I'm assuming you were around the team then, you're a kid, Luke, coming up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah, that was huge. I mean, when I look back on that, it's funny. Those are some great days for sure. Dad coached he was with 2 years with 2 or 3 years with Lou Crawford, and then another 2 or 3 with Doug Shedden. And they were the head coaches, and they were awesome. I mean, I just remember I remember doing a couple of, optional skates, and I was like 13 years old, and Shedzy would just tell me like, "Hey, like, why don't you go out with the boys? There's only 6 of them going out today." I'm playing Phantom A hockey in Newfoundland, and I'm skating in the AHL for morning skates.
Well, Lukey,
it's a little bit of a benefit.
That's another thing that I say. I've often said this, Lukey. So the first thing that we had in common, like I said, our fathers played, but like my dad coached like senior hockey. So, I do the same thing. If the boys went out for their morning skate, if they left, I'd just go on the ice. So by the end of the year, you got A, so much more ice time, and B, with people that are professionals. So you get to see it. So to me, and now Lukey was a great player anyway. There's also something to be said for fucking genetics, right? And that brings Lukey, that you go through those years, then you go St. John's Maple Leafs AAA team. Now you're a bantam age player. You're playing. I'm getting somewhere with this because you ended up going. Where did you go? You went in the first round of the Quebec Major League draft, going into your 16-year-old year. What number overall did you go?
7th overall to St. John's.
That was just out of memory. I remember that happening, and a lot of people took notice. But the year before, Lukey, didn't you have like 40 goals?
Yeah, that was.
Didn't you have like in midget like 40 or 50 fucking goals?
I played. I think. Yeah. I mean, I played 1 year midget. We had a really good team. We had a young team. We ended up going to the TELUS Cup, representing Atlantic Canada. So that was big for Newfoundland. You know, anytime they can win midget championships. And, yeah, I mean, I think, like, including the tournaments and stuff, it was something like that, 85 or 90 points in 40 games, maybe. So
I can remember you. I can remember you potting a few in the Lab City arena.
Like that's like, yeah.
I don't know if you remember that rink, but
that's a trip you will never forget. That was oh yeah, that's something you're never gonna forget, man. Heading up there, I was like, where am I up here? Like, I've never been anywhere even remotely like that.
That would have been my grad year, and we were like, "Who's this kid?"
That year, I know. Yeah, it's funny. But that year was like the first year where I was like, you know what? Like, I have a chance to play like hockey. Like, this is like a real thing. Because that's like, up until that point, I was big into baseball. I never even skated. I didn't go away to any tournaments. Like, my dad always pushed baseball on me. Like, at the end of hockey seasons, and
another thing we got in common.
Played all year round. Like, I was a multi-sport guy, and I was going to national championships playing baseball all the time, and I really wanted to do that. And then, that was the first summer I was like, you know what, like, or that after that season, because that's when I got drafted to junior. It all happened pretty quick, and yeah, like, I mean, I was so fortunate to get drafted to the St. John's and play at home at 16.
Well, that's like, the other thing. So
it's a big difference than having to leave home.
A lot of people out there don't realize, that. And by the way, before we get any further, another fucking thing we got in common. I didn't train it either. Growing up, my dad would force me to play other sports in the summer. He'd be like, "Get your fucking skates off, and here's a bat and a ball and a glove. Now go wherever you fall. You be in house league or be in the all-star team, whatever." And it just drove 100%. Us to be playing, right? So I'd be out there hitting curveball. I was practicing hitting curveballs more in the summer than I was taking slap shots. Anyway,
so I'm just gonna say something about genetics
I'll never
here.
Forget it. My dad would take my gear.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
No, but I mean
he would take my gear and throw it up on top of the attic.
Well, a lot of people, and they knew because they went through that, Lukey. So, like, I often say that even at my hockey schools and stuff, I'll say to people, you got to encourage the other sports. Like, an athlete's an athlete, and you're not going to forget. I mean, you don't hang them up for 6 months, but it's refreshing for the brain as well. Now, listen, a lot of people don't realize. So you played junior in St. John's. When I say that to people, they often think I mean you played junior B, and then like you miraculously got drafted to Buffalo. But I'm like, no, for a few years we did have a major junior team. It was in between pro teams. We had the St. John's Maple. I'm talking to everybody listening now that doesn't know because a lot of people don't. We had the St. John's Maple Leafs here for 14 years, and they were part of the American Hockey League. They were Toronto's farm team, but they left, and there was a couple of empty years in between. But the Fog Devils came for the mid-2000s and had some highlights. They had Scott Brophy was a captain for a couple years, or I think his 1 year. Was a Newfoundlander. Ryan Graham came through. Lot of Patty O'Keefe, but lost in the mix. Looking back, is that not only did we have a team, but Lukey was 16 years old, and came in and ended up playing 2 years. And at the end of your second year in St. John's, you get drafted to Buffalo. So tell us what that was all about, playing at home, and then to get drafted to the show.
Yeah, like, I mean, playing at home was unbelievable. It was. 16 years old, coming in, like, I was still in grade 11, and all of a sudden, I'm playing major junior, going to school, and I ended up only going to school in the morning because we practiced every day at 2. It was a complete lifestyle change, and being 16 in that league, you're lining up against 20-year-old men at that point, and, it was a lot. It was a huge jump.
Pressure, too, because...
It was hard, my 16 year. It was hard, I wasn't used to being the guy, like, sitting on the bench playing fourth line. Like, growing up, I was always, one of the top players. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting on the bench some nights playing 2-3 minutes a night. And, I got friends and family sitting in the stands, and they're probably like, holy fuck, this guy's brutal. Like, what's he doing? Why do we pick this guy in the first round?
But that's funny. That's the thing when there's advantages and disadvantages, Lukey. Like, you get to go away. You didn't have to go away, and a lot of people are like, holy fuck, that'd be unreal if you didn't have to go away and you got 2 extra years to grow into yourself and graduate high school. Those are pluses, but I'm glad that my 16-year-old year I didn't have to do it in front of my home audience. Because, I fucking hated that. Some games you're getting one shift, and then some games you're out there blocking shots. You want to be on the power play. You don't see one for 4 weeks. I mean, so anyway, not to inject with everything you say, but I think that's a huge thing that people didn't take into account that year. Because I was doing your games. I was doing your color. Me and Dave Salter Saltz was, we were in between periods.
Right. Well, no, I remember.
Yeah, and anyway, that really stood out to me. I'm like,
it was hard. Like, I mean, there'd be games where, I think I ended that season with like 6 goals and 7, 8 something assists, and I was like, geez, like, you start kind of doubting yourself. And then, I had a real old school coach in Real Paymont. He was like really like loved the old guys and wanted to play the older players a lot and was used to winning. And now all of a sudden he's coaching the expansion team, and we had young players and. So, anyways, it was hard. But then my 17-year-old year, I prepared well. I knew it was a big season for myself. And, I ended up starting the year really well. And, I mean, you mentioned a couple of guys like Wes Welcher and Ryan Graham. I was lucky enough to play with those guys for 2 years. And they were both huge influence. I'm still whenever I run into those guys, I love talking to them.
I saw Guami last week in Toronto, by the way.
So much. And then that year I ended up having – it was crazy. Those guys are the best. Whenever you run into old junior teammates and you start reminiscing about the funny stories and shit, and those are the best guys.
Well, you know what,
the best stories you love to see
Lukey,
so,
I think
that year went way better.
Sorry about that. Keep going. I was just going to say, I think having those guys around you really helped you in your draft year because your mood was always up. This was your home base. I think it really helped because you had great. I mean, your stats your second year compared to your first were through the roof.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of those guys, it helps if you're not only playing at home, but you got guys on your team. There's lots of times that people play at home, but there's nobody else from that area on the team. But I mean, he had a bunch. I forgot Wes Welcher, one of the best. What a bullet he was back then too. Westy got some fucking pounds on now. He's a cop in town. Good guy. He lost the wheels, but he used to be a bullet. He used to be a fucking bullet. Anyway, Lukey, not to cut you off.
Throwing him under the bus.
You're getting to the end of the year. You go to.
He's one of the best. He's one of the best teammates and best people I ever met, man. Like, he is unreal. I still tell him today, I'm like, hey, we used to call him the Weasel. I said, Weasel, you're still the best centerman I ever had, buddy. Don't worry. So, he's an unreal guy, and he's a ton of fun. So, yeah, that year went way better, and then that was my draft year. So you mentioned that, and so then, I mean, it happened quick. Like, right after that, the rankings started coming out. I had a pretty good season, good playoffs. We lost early in the playoffs, but I felt good. And then, I ended up, went to the combine and all that stuff. That went quick. And then, sure enough, the draft was upon us. And the next thing you know, I was fortunate enough to be drafted by Buffalo. And, that was a dream come through and dream come true story. And, it's something I'll never forget. The draft was in Ottawa. I went up with my family and some uncles and some fellow old coach of mine, Steve Power, who was a huge influence on me.
Oh, fuck. I love Steve Power. One of the best, man.
Power's
one of the
wicked.
best.
Yeah.
Did you know you were going to Buffalo?
Yeah. So I had, you know what? It's a funny story. Like, I had met with them. I knew they liked me, but I actually met with 28 of 30 NHL teams at the combine.
Wow.
So
anyone ask any fucked questions?
The teams I didn't meet with were the only two. Oh my God! Like it was so insane. Like, I'll never. There's a couple like you don't forget. Like, I remember sitting in with LA, and Dean Lombardi was the GM there, and he was they put me in a chair in the room. Dean was on one side, his head scout was on the other, and he just started talking to his head scout as if I wasn't in the room. He's like, yeah, like, what do you think of this Luke Adams? He's like, this Adam. He's like, fuck, can't skate. Like, ripping me apart, and I'm just sitting there.
Wow.
There was one that came out.
I was sitting in the middle of the room, and
There was a big one that came out this year. That was they didn't out who the GM was asking it, but a lot of people thought it was the Montreal Canadiens, and he just kept asking people at the combine. It's you and a bunch of teammates in a room, and there's a python on the other side of the door that hasn't eaten in months. What do you do? Like, I don't know how that comes up in a draft combine, but all of the prospects were like, it was
like how they think of these. You're in their back of your head. You're like, I'm interviewing right now to play hockey, right? Not to be a fucking zookeeper or what's going on.
The Montreal Canadiens are going to reboot the Crocodile Hunter with their first overall
I'm
choice.
convinced half the time they're just fucking with your head.
Oh, have to be.
Am.
Oh, yeah, it's just a...
Remind me to tell you guys a draft story after.
100%. At the end of that,
Yeah. Go ahead.
At the end of that, he looks over to his head scout, and he's like, "Yeah, you know what? All that stuff I said, I don't really think that's true. I just wanted to see what you thought." And the head scout was like, "Oh, okay," like said his piece, and I was just sitting there like, "Oh my god, like I'm gonna piss my pants. Get me out of here."
Wow. I love that though. You make them think. Fuck it, Lukey.
Yeah,
like you
so
said, you're there to
you're
shoot and score. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. I met with a ton of teams, and it was, I had no idea where it's going, but I knew Buffalo would like me because we actually that year I played with TJ Brennan and John Simone Allard in St. John's, and both those guys were already drafted to Buffalo, so they seen me play way more than any other team. Like, so they kind of knew me a lot better than most teams, I think, just because they were there watching those guys.
I see. And then Lukey, so I'm going to fast forward a couple of years, not really, I guess a year and a half. So you go to Cape Breton. Did you have a chance? 49 goals in 56 games, too, mind you. You almost joined that elusive 50 goals in junior club. Pat on my back. I got mine with 20 seconds left in the final fucking game, but I did play 70 games.
Wait, you got 50 in a year?
Oh, fuck you, Mike. But Cape Breton, so 56 games. When did you get your 49th? Were you sitting on it for a couple of games? Like, did you come close?
So that was the year I played World Juniors. So I missed, like you said, like 16 games or something because I missed the whole month of December and the first half of January because I was at World Juniors. But I had a chance, man. I scored my 49th goal in the second last game of the year in Moncton. And it's funny, like, you always remember because it's so elusive. Like, and then I wanted to get 50 so bad. But it's funny. I scored 49 in junior. I scored 29 twice in the American League. I can't never get over that hump. But
I saw that. I figured one of the three times luck would land on your side. But anyway, and Lukey, I wanted to ask you about, and before we go on moving from that year, you had a great World Juniors. A lot of people don't fucking remember that either. Not to put you down, but 6 games played, 4 goals, 4 assists, Lukey, and you played well, and you played consistent, and you played penalty kill. How was that experience?
It was, that's to this day, besides probably my first NHL goal, that's probably my most memorable hockey experience. I mean, playing, representing your country, like playing for World Juniors, in Canada, no more or less. Like, it was absolutely amazing. Like, and the fans were crazy. Like, we ended up losing in the finals to the States in overtime. Carlson scored, but I mean, the guys and the friends I made on that team, like, such a great team, such great players. Even the guys like this week that won the Stanley Cup, it's fun to see, like, that they were on that team. Great guys. Like, I mean, Petro, he's the captain now of St. Louis. He was on that team. Schenner was on that team. Wow. Jake Allen was on that team.
That was a great team.
It's just amazing to see these guys winning the Stanley Cup. But that was an amazing experience. Unbelievable. So much fun. Memories that'll last a lifetime for sure. You'll never forget.
And then you get up the next season, and God fucking love you. You get 19 games played in Buffalo. You get a few goals. Where was your first goal? Walk us through it.
First goal was Boston against the Bruins. Tim Thomas was the goalie.
Nice.
It was. I think it was my 8th game, maybe 7th or 8th game, somewhere around there. I was out. Jason Pominville and Mark Mancure were the two that assisted it. It was just like a broken play, kind of behind the net. Went behind the net. I think Palmer passed it over to Mancurry. Mancurry came out to me, and I mean, I was like reaching for it. Hit a whole lot of it, to be completely honest, and it was just one of those like seeing eye, like went 5-hole on Tim Thomas, and all like, I mean, that was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. So surreal to score that. That's something you dream of right from the day you start playing hockey. So that was amazing.
Any guys on that team stand out to you? Anybody take you under their wing, or quite the opposite? Did anybody tell you to go fuck yourself?
Any dirty laundry to air?
No, I mean, that team was, it was pretty. That was the last time the Buffalo Sabres made the playoffs, was that year, which was 10 years ago now, or 9 years ago. So pretty crazy that. But I mean, there's tons of guys. Like, I mean, it's funny how life comes full circle. Like, we were talking about Dad coaching in St. John's, and Brad Boyce was on those teams, and my first ever NHL roommate was Brad Boyce.
Oh wow!
So, like, all of a sudden, I'm like a 12-year-old watching him around, like,
that must have been weird.
Bird peeking the boys when they're around the dressing room, and the next thing you know, this guy's my roommate in the NHL. So,
did he remember you when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah, he remembered me as soon as I got there. I mean, all these guys do. Like, I played with Carlo Koliakovo, played against Matt Stajan. I played, John Mitchell, played against him this year. Like, all these guys remember my dad and ask how he's doing. But, Boise was so old school. Like, he was so classic. Like, he was my roommate. I wasn't allowed to touch the TV remote. I wasn't allowed to touch the thermostat. Like, that's so old school.
Oh, yeah.
Boise liked the hot room. And I'm like, Boise, what do you think about tonight? We get her down to like 73 degrees. 75.
Sneaking like, windows there, open.
Like, yeah. And I mean, you're in hotels. Like, you can't even open the windows. I'm like, geez. So I'm sleeping ass naked on top of the bed, no sheets. I'm like, yeah, let's go to 73 tonight. He's like, I'll think about it, kid. I'm like, okay.
That's
but
fucking.
I say that, like, yeah, he was unreal, though, to me. Like, he took care of me big time. Like, anytime he's like, hey, let's go to dinner. Like, there's guys like that, like Thomas Vanek and Andre Sekera. Like, I remember those guys every time we would get to the hotel. For the 2 years I played with them quite a bit, they were like, hey, let's go. Where are we going for dinner? Like, you're coming with us type of thing.
You see what I mean, boys? You see what I fucking mean? Now, that's what I was saying, though, Lukey. But before you go, Chuck, I just want to reiterate that fucking point, that is something. Every time I said I went out with the boys, I'm not saying we're going to get shit-faced, but a good leader will take a young guy and say, you're coming with us. And you might have steaks and beers or whatever it might be. But to me, and I'm glad to hear that, because I was on the fence about Vanek. I don't know him, and I just watch him out there, and I'm going, I wonder, is he selfish?
Yeah.
Okay, that's.
See, I always
he's
had.
Awesome, man. He's one of the best teammates ever. Like, he's a quiet guy. Like, he's not a huge vocal guy, but he's like I had not a bad thing to say about him. He took care of me big time. Because then even the next year, like, I was line mates with him for, the first 2 months of the season, my second year. So. He was unreal. Every road trip, like, always took care of the boys. Like, I mean, he was making $7 million. He wasn't letting me pay for a thing. Like, he would make sure I'd offer, though, just to make sure I wasn't too tight. And then, he'd no way, kid, keep your money. So no, he's classic, man, and he's still playing and still doing well. So I'm happy for him.
I always had the idea, and I've never been anywhere near the same area codes as him, but you mentioned Sekera there. I always thought he was like the pro's pro whenever I see how he handled himself. So thank you for bringing him up at least and confirming the weird hunch I had about him.
Oh yeah, we called him Red. This guy was class. Like, he's Slovakian, complete savage. I got a couple of hilarious stories about that guy. He was unbelievable guy.
Oh yeah, well, any stories we can hear, or
not
are they off
shareable?
The
record? I got one. I mean, it's probably the funniest one, if not the funniest story I've ever been a part of. So we had it was either Halloween or Ryan Miller. He would do like a charity event every year. So I think it was at Millsy's event, honestly. So that after that night, the boys get together and we have a good time, and then everyone the bars in Buffalo, they close at 4:00. So all of a sudden everyone's out.
Whoa.
So we practiced the next day because we knew that I mean, the coaches knew what was going on, so we just needed to sweat the next day. So they had us come in at probably like an 11 o'clock practice or something. So Reggie shows up and he gets in the room and he looks weathered. Like, oh boy, like what happened to Reg last night?
Oh,
So
no.
we go on to find out. Like, he tells us the story after practice. So he was at the bar, met a young lady. They decided that they were going to go to McDonald's. So sure enough, Reggie was like, okay, let's go to McDonald's. So they get in her car. She puts McDonald's in her GPS. Reggie falls asleep. He wakes up to a knocking on the window. He says, what the fuck? So he's, it's probably 5 in the morning. Looks out the window, looks out the front of the car. The young lady he was with is in handcuffs, walking in front of the car. And Reg looks and rolls down the window and the guy goes, sir, could I have your passport? He's like, my passport? I don't have my passport on me.
Oh, no.
So we played in Buffalo. It's on the border of Canada and Fort Erie. So they put McDonald's in the fucking GPS, and they point to McDonald's in Canada. He got a DUI because he shouldn't have been driving. And the next thing you know, he was stuck at the border because he had no passport. How classic is that? Like, all of a sudden, you think you're going to McDonald's and going home to go to bed, and the next thing you know, you got an officer asking you for your passport, and you're stuck in customs.
And then you get bag skated as a reward.
I thought we were going to get a food poisoning story.
Called one of the boys. Next thing you know, it came, dropped off his passport because they wouldn't let him go without his passport. So they brought him his passport. And that was the end of that. So he showed up at the rink, practiced, and he, like you said earlier, though, you say that, but he was the true professional. Like, that guy was a machine. He would come to work every day, and but that was just something off the top of my head. It was classic, man. The boys were laughing their ass off.
You know what's a weird part of that story is that the Buffalo bars are open till 4.
How do you?
Buffalo?
Later than St. John's, by the way. This guy goes
We're
against the
proud
NHL.
of the 3 o'clock shutdown. 4. I'm just going, like, at what point do you just say fuck it? Like, wait, I mean, they open again at 7, don't they? Like, what's 4 o'clock in the morning?
Well,
like, and then you get a cab home. Like, so if you got practice at fucking.
But I mean, the other thing is that, like you said, it's right on the border. So, like, worst case scenario, it's 4:30. I really want a beer. You just fucking go to Niagara Falls and hit the casino.
Yeah, true.
Like, I mean,
what a great
that's
spot.
Jesus, like,
insane, man. Like, we would play, like, you play on the East Coast, like, we would play in Philly, Pittsburgh, like, any of those cities. You fly home, you're home by 1 o'clock, and the boys are getting off the plane, and we're like, all right, so I guess we're going for beer. Like,
there's lots of time left.
We got 3 hours.
You get off in Salt Lake City, it's shut down at fucking 10 o'clock. Do you ever have to play there?
Yeah, no.
Oh fuck! I played for Salt Lake City.
I never
boys.
played there. They didn't have a team.
No, this is how different it can be. So
they had the American League team.
Yes, they had the American League team, and they had an eye. When I was there, it was in the eye. I played it, 10 or 12 games there in the year before. The year I came to St. John's in the end, 99, 2000. But anyway, yeah, you had to have a club membership to get into the bar first of all, and then if you got in, if you were lucky enough to be able to get in, and we all got like these similar passes, but it wasn't a guarantee. You had to have your passport and all that, and like the most was like a piano bar. I remember going there a lot. There was no like big club, and then you get in and it's shut down at 10:30 anyway.
That's
so,
like an oasis surrounded by dry counties, though, man.
Yeah,
like,
a lot of weird
people
religion
go
stuff.
for miles.
I know.
religious stuff.
I've heard of a bunch of places in the States that do that private member shit to get around like no smoking laws because you can smoke in a members club.
This was a religious thing. Trust me.
Yeah, no, I mean,
a lot of people there like even weren't religious, but the laws were in there. A lot of people fucking were, and I'm not knocking Mormonism because that's the biggest thing that was there, but just the whole there's an overwhelming amount of religious people in an area, then sometimes the rules can be a little tight.
Well,
you can't
I always laugh because whenever like anything about this with Utah comes up, it always just reminds me of the beginning of basketball where they're talking about the wave of relocated
You lost
franchise.
me at basketball.
Yeah,
No, but there's a whole joke about it, like this team moved here and this team moved here, and the New Orleans Jazz moved to Utah where they don't allow music, and I just always found it really funny. It was just always a solid line. Sorry about bringing up basketball.
What do you mean? I was only fucking kidding. How do you know I'm mad? You must feel bad about it. You're looking at me and feeling guilty. I said nothing.
Well, this has gone off the rails.
Anyway, 11-12, just as we're talking about the 11-12 hockey season, I will bring up 52 games played, 10 goals, 10 assists. And by the way, Mike, basketball's a fine pick. Don't worry about it.
I'm offended.
Haven't seen it in 20 years. I don't know.
11-12, 52 games played, 10 goals, 10 assists. Now, that seems to me like a decent year because weren't you? The other thing is, Lukey, you're a scorer, the fourth line, and the game's transitioning. Now, I remember tuning in a few games there to watch you, a few games that year, and you played a lot on the third and fourth line. So that was, you're trying to get in. I still think, though, as a rookie, 10 goals is pretty good. So tell us about that season. I mean, you were pretty much a rookie. You played 19 the year before. But how did you feel in 11-12? Did you feel like an NHLer, or did you feel like you were still on the bubble?
You know what? I felt like an NHLer, and when I look back on it, I probably even took it for granted because my first year pro, it went fairly smooth. Like, I mean, my first year, like you said, I played 19 NHL games. I played 55 American League games, had, almost 30 goals, 65 points, ended up winning Rookie of the Year that year in the American League, and I was like, oh, this is like an easy transition. And then the next year, I made the NHL right out of training camp, and I ended up having, you said 10 goals, 10 assists, but I had 10 goals and 10 assists in like 23 games or 22 games.
Wow.
And then that was the summer that they had signed Billy Lano to that big contract. So Bill, I'll never forget it. I mean, Lindy called me in at the time. I'd been playing with Vanek and Pominville, and we were, I think we were the best line in the NHL as far as like points. I mean, I was playing way out of my league playing with those two, but those guys were such great players. They made me so much better, and coach just said we got to get Billy going. We're going to try him up there for a bit, and then I went in the most epic slump ever and went 30 straight games without a point.
Unbelievable.
And
that's how it can happen, though, right? That's how it can happen. I want people to know that, Lukey. Like you're there, and sorry to cut you off, and we got a bit of a time delay. I don't know what's going on with the phone, but
we do.
Regardless, yeah. Like I want people to know that. Like, so it's not like. I often say it the other way around. It happened for Danny Cleary. Danny Cleary was down. He was down. He was down. He was down. He was up. He wasn't getting a chance. He was down.
Then he fucking
Finally,
exploded.
one night, shit changes. You're on another line. You're on another team. Boom. You never look back. For Lukey, I got to say, right up until that point, until midway through 11-12, life seemed easy. I don't want to make that seem, because it's never easy, but, his progression is totally normal. 29 goals, 10-11, 57 games, gets up for 19. The next year, of course you would expect. And then you make it right out of camp. You got 10 goals and 10 assists. I didn't realize in 20-odd games. You're thinking, I'm here to stay. And that's not a cocky thought.
Yeah.
That's how quick it can be, and that is how fucking quick, guys. It's a flip of a coin, and someone gets in. There's only 600-700 jobs, right? And there's thousands of good hockey players, so that can also often happen. But so from there, you go down. The next year, I believe, if I got this written down, and a lot's going off my head, but I believe in 12-13, you were in the AHL for most of that season, right?
Yep, that was a lockout year, so that kind of pooped me a little bit too.
Fuck, what bad timing.
The year after I'd played all those games in the NHL, it's the lockout year. So, I'm back in the American League playing in Rochester because the team had moved from Portland. And, so, I mean, the lockout didn't end, I don't think so, end of January or something. So, that season was kind of up and down. Like, I wasn't having a great year. So when camp came, there wasn't even camp. It was just here's the team. We had Cody Hodgson was playing with us. So he went up, and Marcus Foligno and Zach Cassian were playing with us. So those guys went up, and that was it. They just picked the team. They didn't even have tryouts or camp or anything. So,
yeah, that's really, really bad timing. That's bad timing. I don't give a fuck what you say. And sometime, didn't you get the kiss of death? Didn't you get the assistant captain or the captain in the minors at some point? I remember seeing you with an A on your jersey.
I was assistant in Rochester either that year or
kiss of death.
That's the peck on the cheek of death. The assistant is.
It was that year was hard, man. And at that point, honestly, like I said, up until the year before, I hadn't been, I I almost wish they said, "Hey, Luke, like you got to pick it up, man, or you're fucking going to the minors again." Like, but I wasn't a healthy scratch, so I didn't have like any like pre-warning, and all of a sudden they were like, "All right, you're going to the AHL." So I was in the AHL, and then that was the end of that year, and then the next year's a lockout. So I kind of went stale with like Lindy Ruff and Darcy Regier. So that was a kind of disappointing. But like I said, man, when I was there, I didn't realize how good I had it, and by the time I did realize, and by the time I was a way better player, which was in the last couple of years, like it's a young guys league now, so it's too late.
Who was it that told you were going down that time? Was it Lindy or was it the GM?
It was Lindy and Darcy were both in there. I mean, it was just so disappointing. It was like the biggest shock of my career. Like TR said, I mean, like I thought I was in the NHL. Like, I mean, I had a house, I was settled in, and then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, they're telling me I got to go back to the American League, and I just wasn't even thinking that was an option. So, I wish I had thought about that, and wish I did do a little bit more. And he was a very defensive-minded coach, and my game was more offensive side of the puck, which you learn as you go on and you get older and pro what it takes to play both sides. And it was just kind of disappointing timing, but you know what? I don't have any regrets, that's for sure. I was super lucky and fortunate to play as many games as I did.
Yeah, no, I mean it's amazing, but there's it could be you lifting that cup. I often say it, like you had great numbers. Now look, you 13-14, 59 games played. You get another 29 goals, and you get 29 goals again in a way shortened season. You missed 22 games. I mean, those are great numbers. Yeah. I mean, like for me, there's guys that got up that year that play your game that probably had 12. But I mean, it must have been great to show that you get back, you're scoring again, and it must have been bittersweet. But I see in 14-15, you got up to Columbus for the 3 games. Did you realize then? I know you played in Hartford in 15-16, but at some point there, you realized I'm going to Europe, and for many reasons. For me, it would be there's good money in Europe, and there's less, it's less hard on the body, and you're getting to travel and see the world. At what point did you decide you were going to Mannheim?
Geez, I mean, it was honestly when I decided I was going to Europe. Like you said, we had the year after. I had a really good year in the minors, and then ended up playing 9 games and got kind of messed up by the waiver rule. If you play 10, you got to stay. So I got sent down after 9. And then the next year, like I said, I was traded to Columbus, played 3 games there. Then the following year, I signed in Hartford. Didn't play any NHL games. Kind of was hurt for the first 2 months of that season. Just minor knee stuff. And then the following year, I went to camp in Calgary. Went on a PTO, which you're seeing a lot more now, obviously. Like
I can't fucking believe that, though, with those numbers that you had to go PTO. To me, I'm looking at a kid in his prime that's played on the World Junior team, that's potted fucking 30 twice, and fucking he's already got fucking 10 goals in a season in the NHL. I'm really astounded. I'm not trying to suck your dick when I say this either. I'm fucking astounded by it. I often think I got fucked. Well, holy shit, man. I'm looking at your numbers now. Yeah. Not to dwell on it here and piss you off, but anyway, that's what I see. But you're in your prime, and why Mannheim? What was why that particular team?
I mean, I left, and I wasn't prepared to go to Europe, to be honest with you. I went to camp in Calgary. They wanted to sign me to an American League deal. I didn't want to sign just an American League deal, and with no chance to get called up and had to do that whole American League grind. So I ended up saying, let's go to Europe. And I knew I had played in Europe against Mannheim with the Sabres at the beginning of 2011.
I remember that.
We started in Europe. So I had a couple KHL offers, one hard KHL offer that I was considering, and then had the Mannheim offer. And that was the summer myself and my wife Hannah had just gotten married. So this is like 3 months after we get married, and I can't be like, hey, honey, like I'm going to Russia for 7 months. And you're not coming.
I'll be in Siberia.
In Siberia. Yeah, it was Novosibirsk.
Yeah.
Shit, like Novosibirsk was the team. I mean, it's like it is in Siberia. Like,
now is that where Teddy ended up?
Like
Teddy ended up in Omsk.
No, he was in Omsk, which is like right next to Novosibirsk. So
just touching it.
That's like the one. Novosibirsk is huge. It's like the second biggest city in all of Russia. But I mean, for the KHL, to be completely honest, like it's actually one of the better places to play, except like Moscow or like a non-Russian city. But it's pretty crazy. So, anyways, we decided to go to Mannheim, and I knew the city, and I mean, I got there, man, and it was like this is a whole nother level of like fans. Like European hockey fans are absolutely insane.
Really?
Yeah, I went over there in 0102. I played for Cincinnati, and Phil Esposito was our GM, and he took us over there for almost 2 months, guys. We went, like East Coast League camp starts usually in October, but we went at the end of August over there, and we played all these teams throughout Germany, Italy, and Austria. And it was a great time. I wish that's one thing that I regret. Mine was injury, Luke, or else I would have just gone over and kept playing. And now, I mean, this is the end of your third year, and I look pretty good fucking numbers. You're a 30-odd point guy in a lesser scoring league, and there's only 50 games or 52 games, is it, in that league? I'm going by memory now, and this would be the end of your third year, and you brought the championship home. What was the closest you got in the last 2 years?
My first year there, we actually finished first place in the season. No, that's a lie. We were in first place like all year, and we lost the last game of the year. Ended up in second place, and we lost in the first round. We got upset by Berlin, who was another great team, but had injuries all year. And next thing you know, we're playing them in there's a first round bye, so we're playing them in the quarterfinals. And we're in a 7-game series, 4 of them which went to overtime, and we ended up losing to them. Wow. And then the following year, we ended up finishing 4th, and we went to the semifinals and lost to Munich, who ended up winning. And then this year, we finished first in the league. We set the league record, actually, for most points. We had an unreal team, great group of guys. And the next thing you know, we're champions at the end of it, and it was my best. I mean, to win a championship, that's the first professional championship I won, and it was absolutely amazing. The city was crazy.
Did they do the parade over there?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Insane.
See, I can think of a European city parade. It's just turn it to 11.
Guys, you got to look at Lukey's fucking Instagram and shit. I can't remember where I saw it.
Shit on it.
It was one of those. Man. I saw you guys out partying. It looked like thousands of people outside.
I was thinking it's like a party and a half.
Oh yeah.
It's like next. I mean, the bars. The night we won, we left the arena at 3:30 in the morning, and we went to the bar. And the bar was. I had to like ninja dust at like 7 o'clock in the morning, so I'm like, I should probably go home for a couple hours.
So you just go to places where bars just don't close, right?
Yeah, maybe that's part of Lukey's whole fucking thing. Maybe that's it. After this, he's gonna sign in Budapest where the bars close at fucking 5:30, and then it's just straight over and playing in fucking Australia.
Yeah, they don't close
in the Australian League. They just leave the door open.
I can't even keep up with these guys. Like, the Germans are crazy, man. Like, trying to keep up with them, I'm like, boys, like, it's 6:30 in the morning. Like, I mean, I'm not getting any younger. I'm like,
oh yeah, there's no light beer over there either. It's all like made of kerosene. It's that heavy.
I was over there a few years ago at Oktoberfest. I was in Munich for Oktoberfest. It's when I say like a beer tent, they're bigger than like the fucking Mile One. Like, I mean it. Like these beer tent, and the beers come out. It's like fucking a gallon. It's just. I mean, I don't think I'm exaggerating. There's just beer tents.
No, they're 1 liter.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they're 1 liter. They're 1 liter beers.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, like those guys invented the beer garden. Like, it's just like
and they like drinking and eating the sausages. And I don't mean that metaphorically or anything, but you know, but the women do like the women are quite fine looking. They ever notice you go to Montreal and like women dress a little nicer just to go to the grocery store? I find that Germans have a sense of awareness about fashion and looking good, that kind of way. And I'll tell you what else blew me away about Germany, Luke, was the cities. Like, we're talking places like Dusseldorf, which is like 10th on the list, have like 2 million people. There's way more people than you'd ever think. Oh my God!
And aren't you going to Dusseldorf next year?
Me?
I just signed there. I signed a 2-year deal. It's honestly probably the in all of Germany. and like you don't even ever hear about it. Like
Wow.
it's never even mentioned, and like TR said, it has like over 1 million people, and it is like right on the river. It's unreal.
I loved it
So
on the
I'm
river there,
excited
Luke. Now I've been there a bunch of times now at this point. I went with ice hockey the first time. I went back with ball hockey twice. And the second time we stayed for like an extra couple weeks. I know it pretty well. Like all those little, you eat on the terraces out on the river there, or the riverbed, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's one of the nicest cities I've been to. I remember that place and Cologne stood out to me because you hear about these places in Germany and Dusseldorf and Cologne, and I'm like, I don't know, they could be like 30,000 people. I don't know.
Yeah.
And you go there, and it really stood out to me. And we actually played in that rink there. I didn't know, Mike. You just told me that. I didn't know. Luke's my buddy, and I did not know he signed in Dusseldorf. So I was just throwing that out there. It's one of the nicest cities I've been to.
Happy accident. I've got to ask you about this. I did a little bit of research before when Terry told me you were coming on, and I did some digging in it, and it turns out that your dad, Russ, is credited with some games played over in Germany, despite having never played or been over in Germany.
Yeah, I read a little bit about this.
Yeah,
Fucking enlighten us on that one.
That is like it's one of the craziest, like, it's like a fake story that you like wouldn't even know. Like you like hear about this shit happening, but like it really fucking happened. Like,
It seems like something that belongs in a Down Goes Brown book.
Yeah, it's insane. Like he was playing in Newfoundland, retired, and this is before. You got to remember this. You could never pull this off ever again because this is before internet, before like hockey DB, like before like elite prospects, like before like all these websites and pictures and all this shit came out. So what obviously happened, because like years after, like when the internet came around and we would check like I would look at his stuff, it would say like, yeah, he played like 4 or 5 years in Germany or in the DEL. And so I'm playing my first game or second game in Berlin, and I'm doing like a TV interview. And they asked me about that. So I had to like briefly tell the story like on TV. And so long story short, it's basically someone like stole his identity and like went over to Germany with like his like just found his like stats, I guess, and was like, look, my name's Russ Adam. Like I played 8 games for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like I won the Calder Cup in Moncton with the Hawks, and I played in Fort Wayne. I played junior in the OHL in Kitchener, and I'd like to play here. So this guy ended up playing 4 years and like under my dad's name and birth date and everything, and just people like thought it was him.
It's almost like that movie Catch Me If You Can, only incredible. The Canadian spin-off where a guy uses identity theft to play ice hockey instead of bank theft or anything. He just wants to be a hockey player.
Real that you can do that.
But how was his stat line when he was there though?
Now being like, yeah, imagine a guy going over there and being like, my name's Sidney Crosby. Here's like on this.
It's that guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Sid Crosby.
There was a guy years ago. I remember this. I don't know. They called him the imposter or whatever. But he snuck into the Yankees starting lineup. I don't think he pulled off hockey. They found out when he went on with his skates. There's a totally not really totally unrelated. There was a famous guy. You look it up, and he started for the Yankees. He also got into a basketball game too. But this is back in the day with no internet. Imagine what you could pull off. I still think that would be impossible. Here's a guy going by Russ Adam, living his life over there for 3 or 4 fucking years, guys. That's insane.
Yeah,
that's equally as
like
impressive as Catch Me If You Can. I know.
Yeah, it was a couple seasons is what always blows me away. Yeah, that is I'd like to somehow like track him down and get your dad to finally meet him. I think there's either a long read for the Player Tribune or something like that there. It's one of those weirdest hockey stories I've ever heard.
But I just want to know what his stat line was like while he was over there. Like, how did he hurt your dad's numbers? Like, how do you hold up?
The thing is, like, so I think one of the two like websites has actually taken it down because I think they like found out it wasn't actually him, so they like took his stats down.
I just checked; he's not on either anymore.
Like either Hockey Reference or Hockey DB or like one of those still have it up. And like he had a couple good years, like 35, 40 points and stuff, which is like pretty funny. But like he ended up like leaving the first league, and like I think he played another season in the second league. Like he played like 4 or 5 years over there. And I mean, if there wasn't for the internet and like hockey reference and stuff, like we would have never even known. Like my dad had no idea until 15 years later when he's just seen it online somewhere.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, it's on Hockey Reference. And yeah, in 90-91, dude put up 64 points in 52 games.
Wow.
Yeah,
Maybe he was like Roy Hobbs, like, you know, the guy from The Natural, Robert Redford. Ever see that movie? Like,
yeah. He just had
maybe there was some kind of crime he committed, and he's a good hockey player. Thing is, this guy must have been a good player because he didn't, you know, I guess it's one thing to throw it out there, but when they looked at him, they must have said, oh, yeah, he's got to be telling the truth. Right? Why would anybody that's actually good be running away from a name? So I would say there's more to that.
So there might be a shady backstory to this whole thing. Like it might have been some professional bank robber or something.
Yeah.
I really feel like we got to get to the bottom of this.
Maybe we'll make that a goal of the show.
We're gonna do like a whole like expose series where we try to figure out who impersonated Russ Adams.
We'll
from
find out which one of the 3 MI
1992.
hosts is the best investigative journalist now.
Yeah, right. So, Luke, you're back now. So, and tell listeners, you live in Phoenix, right? Or you live in Arizona. Is it Phoenix?
Yeah, Arizona, about 45 minutes north of Phoenix. That's where Hannah, my wife, is from.
Where'd you meet her?
Yeah, we kind of. So her grandfather is Jeff Sterling, who is a pretty well-known North Newfoundlander.
Yeah.
So she would come. Just visit in the summer times, and met her one summer, and you know the rest is history. So we kind of made that.
That's great. So she has ties to Newfoundland. I didn't really know that, and I may even met her, but I don't know. You know, I know you. I know the boys. I'm talking. Not that I'm not interested, but I didn't know that, and I often thought, you know, that's often an obstacle that we as Newfoundlanders. And I'm not kidding when I say this. A lot of guys, you know, their marriages might fall apart, you know, because it's almost culture shock for someone from Phoenix or California, you know, to come here and then actually realize that we love Newfoundland, but if you're not from here, especially if you're from
it's a lot to take in.
It's a lot to take in. Yeah. So now I understand how Lukey gets the pass to come home every year for so long and everything. Now it makes sense.
So Jeff Sterling, the NTV guy?
Yeah.
So do you have access to the Captain Canada suit by any chance?
Wouldn't that be great?
Oh yeah,
just throwing it out there.
Like, it's you know, he was a unbelievable man. So I actually got to spend some time with him late in his life, and got some amazing conversations just sitting down and speaking with him. And you know, he was an unreal guy. I mean, the stuff. You can read pages and pages and pages of what he did just for like broadcasting, and not only Newfoundland but Canada. I mean, he was a icon. So you know, he was a great man. And yeah, so her mom is Jeff's daughter, and
cool.
So yeah, I met Hannah. Hannah's a dual citizen, and so yeah, she has lots of Newfoundland ties. And
that's a great situation.
We're in Arizona now.
And you're in Arizona now. You're back here. You flew back yesterday. How long are you here for?
I'm only here for 11 days. We got to get back. Me and Hannah, actually, she's pregnant right now, and she's expecting our first child, a little boy, August 1st.
Congratulations.
So, she's got to get. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, we're super excited. So she's got to fly back the end of June 30th is when we're flying back to Arizona. So we're gonna spend July there. Not ideal because it's about fucking 50 degrees, but. We're going back, and yeah, I flew home last night, and it's absolutely freezing, and this is probably the coldest day I've been.
And we're having a bad, you know the way it is too. The fog comes in, man. Once it burns off, like yesterday, yesterday evening between 4:30 and 6, it burned off, and it was like a normal day. And then you see the fog coming in, you're like, oh, bye. It might be another fucking week before I see you again, son.
I was playing softball yesterday. There was like a 20-minute window where it was nice, and other than that,
you're like, oh, take off and put on my T-shirt.
Guys, am I the only one who thinks Brad Boys might have had a master plan here, and he was jacking that thermostat to get you ready for living in Arizona?
See, it all comes full circle.
That's
there
right.
You go, small world.
He's a
and
veteran.
Lukey, I tell you this, I'm I never think about it because I got friends all over the place. I got places all over the place. Like Chris Penn, that's 2 weeks in a row. I got to retire that. But Lukey, I'm coming down that way. So I'm coming down to visit my ex-teammate Damon Lankow. He lives down in Phoenix. I know it's not a big hockey hotbed. You guys are you're what? You turned 29, and Lanks would be my age, 42. But in any case, I'm coming down there. I'd love to hook up maybe later this summer and meet your newborn at that point. It's been great having you on the show. Awesome. I don't know, boys, if you guys got anything else for Luke right now.
Just a happy birthday.
True enough.
Because tomorrow when the episode, we're recording on Monday. Tomorrow when the episode's dropped is actually Luke's birthday. So happy birthday! Thanks for taking the time to chat to us. Like, when you got, I'm sure you got 11 days. You're down with family. It's your birthday. You got lots of stuff going on. So we appreciate you taking the time, man. Hope you have a good one.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot for having me on, boys.
Thanks for coming.
I'm going to see you this weekend. We'll get shit-faced. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, see ya.
All right, buddy.
Good talking to you, man.
Bye.
See you, boys.
I'm just going to jump in for anyone who might be listening right here that's not originally from Newfoundland or don't have ties to Newfoundland. I urge you to at least read or Google Jeff Sterling right now, because that blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah,
that is no.
How did I fucking not know that?
Yeah,
either?
No, that blew my mind a little bit. Yeah, there's nothing I could possibly say to sum up.
And if we do start explaining it, we're going to bore 90% of the audience.
Exactly.
But just Google it. Anybody who's interested, Google it. And if you want to email us or contact us on Twitter, something about something specific, maybe best Jeff Sterling story, something like that, maybe ask us. But it's probably a lot to take on right now.
It is. And so what we'll do is we'll take a minute. We'll hear from one of our sponsors, and we'll be back in just a few with some more stuff for you.
Penny Posh, maternity wear reimagined, breaking the barriers of style, fit, and comfort that often leave mothers-to-be uninspired in their new wardrobe. Penny Posh's designs have reinvented a clothing category often seen as disposable, temporary, and unattractive. Well, not with Penny Posh. Check it out, a continuous fit maternity collection from bump to bundle and beyond. You can check them out on Twitter at Penny_Posh, on Instagram at PennyPosh_maternity, and of course on their website, www.pennyposhdesigns.com. Penny Posh Designs, maternity wear reimagined.
All right, and so huge thank you to Luke, and like we said, if you guys want to look in some more to the legend of Jeff Sterling, we highly recommend you do it, just because there's some crazy stuff there. And go check it all out. But this is I guess the point that we started doing this kind of a couple weeks ago, and it's just kind of becoming a regular thing. I know we kind of went off before the interview on a bit of a baseball tangent, but it seems like after the interview we've been going more and talking about some stuff like some basketball that we want to talk about this week, because go Raptiz. There's some music stuff that we started talking about before the show started that we wanted to come back to. So figure, after the interview is kind of a good time to kind
summer
of
wind
especially
down.
During the summer, it's probably a good time to
UFA
a little less hockey to talk about. So
did you guys catch the Raptors party? It was on as we came here. Did you see how many people were there?
I saw some clips and shit online. I didn't see it all. Yeah.
How many people they were announcing as
3 million?
2 million. Wow. I can't believe you started. You started with 3.
Yeah,
they weren't. Only reason
Toronto's like the third biggest city in North America.
The only
only
reason I guessed
people.
it. The only reason I guessed
that
it was
a big guess.
No, because this morning the CBC on the way to work, they were anticipating like 2.8, maybe 3
It could have been
million.
at that point. I turned it on for a second. They were singing "Oh Canada." If you know downtown Toronto, it was just like it was right in front of those big Toronto where the city hall is.
Yeah.
But I mean, like they did an aerial view, like in and around, like back. I couldn't even tell where it ended.
Well, the point I turned it on, I saw like a minute of the parade, and the point I had it on, they were talking about how the police were asking people, not only were they pushing back the crowd, trying to push back the crowd, they were telling people in the crowd, hey, if you have friends farther down, text them and tell them to move back a couple feet.
Imagine.
Like that was the kind of shit that was going on.
What's
the
great,
parade
though?
was crawling.
What's great, I put out a retweet of a sports show at the beginning of the year talking about Toronto, and a lot of times I might watch Pardon the Interruption, or actually, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I really enjoy that program.
One, the guys do know what they're talking about, but there are some shows, Stephen A. Smith I'll throw out there, on ESPN, ESPN2, whatever. A lot of local places. I'm not knocking one station, but a lot of people in the States.
There's also Fox
like
2
Canada,
with fucking Skip Bayless or whatever the fuck.
And they acted like Canada was fucking this far off place, and good luck Kawhi, and he's gonna go over there and he's gonna blow the team up. All I see is a mess, and people have it, and I guess a lot of during the basketball season, like most of the NBA teams, there's snow falling in Toronto, but where they have this Canada, I mean, Toronto's even more southern than some of the fucking teams if you look at a map in the States, but they have this Iglooville or whatever they have in their head. I know that's going the way of the dodo bird, but there are still people that are very ignorant. So I have friends in the States And a lot of them are ignorant. Again, ignorant has bad connotations around the word, but like say, I'm ignorant towards cricket. I don't know anything about it. I haven't been subject to it other than highlights on TV. I'd love to know more about it.
There's people who confuse the terms ignorant and rude.
Yeah,
and that's
ignorant
kinda,
the literal sense means I don't know any better.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, you know, and there's people that I know say, I'm not going to name names, but in St. Louis for that party, and that's fairly south, and they're going, geez, you guys are wearing T-shirts. I'm like, T-shirts? It's fucking June. You know, obviously. Like, Toronto is no different than Philadelphia or Pittsburgh when it comes to, like, weather. They're all right there. But they have this idea that we're like, going around, like, I guess they see one or two Newfoundland tourism commercials with a fucking whale and an iceberg, and they think fucking Lake Ontario is full of ice, I guess, and it's snowing. You know what I mean? Or the odd one of us... Well, I put out a couple times. I'm as guilty as anybody because we get shit weather in Newfoundland. We really do.
Also,
like, it is cold here.
Anybody listening heard 15 minutes ago Luke Adam be like, it's fucking cold here, man. Just got here from Arizona and fuck.
See, what happens in Canada, Newfoundland, it's great. People love coming here at this time of year because in the spring, no other time of year, in the spring, the icebergs go from up north and they float by. They don't float by even Corner Brook. They float by the eastern places, St. John's, because of their path. So there's a lot of ice out on the water. So when the wind blows in off that, it creates a lot of fog and everything. So we do get that. You know, it's a very foggy place. Now, if you go to Grand Falls, this is not Newfoundland in general, St. John's because of where we're situated. Now, it could be 25 today. There's years that June is really June. If the fog lifts and we can actually see the sun, it's a normal day.
Oh, yeah.
But
I mean,
it is cold. Like, we're in a colder place. Like, Toronto, to me, is way fucking hotter in the summer than fucking St. John's.
Well,
right?
so is Central. Like, that was the thing is when I moved out to St. John's, I say it took me 3 years to realize that it was just the weather was shittier here. Then it was just, we're having some bad summer. And then I'd go home and it'd be like 30 degrees. It was like, oh, it's nice in Grand Falls this week.
I guess point being,
you know,
and we're having one of the worst springs ever, but you still, like, it's still not snowing. Like, people really
don't
think
tempt fate, Terry.
Well, no, but you know what I mean? Like,
a
lot of Americans, and you look at these, that's why it looked great. I had goosebumps today. Tear came to my eye looking at that because they're looking at 2 million people singing "Oh Canada," no shirts, they're sitting in the sun. It defied a lot of expectations today. For a lot of Americans watching that, they expected it to be cold. They expected Toronto, like, no offense, I love St. Louis. Toronto blows it out of the fucking water. Toronto's the 3rd biggest city in North America. A lot of people don't realize that, man. You got LA, Chicago, New York, and Toronto. And you look that up. I couldn't believe it myself. But I looked up the numbers, and that's the facts. So a lot of these Americans, and they think Toronto, they really do. They think it's like Mount Pearl. I've been asked more than once, and I graduated in the United States. I'm not knocking all of them, and again, they're not taught it. But more than once in the United States, oh, really? Someone might know somebody. You're from Canada. You must know John. John, what's his last name? Smith. And I'll be looking at him going, are you fucking kidding me?
It really sucks when you know him, though, doesn't it?
Wow. That's...
And like for you,
never happened to me.
It's happened to me. It happened to me with Hako. I was in fucking...
wait, because someone's going the link to Newfoundland. They're not going, do you know John from Toronto?
Oh yeah,
no,
no,
they're doing a film link or something like that.
World, yes.
But not because they know, like, not because they know I work in film or whatever. But like, when I went to Ireland, and it wasn't.
Wait. Let me just finish my thought.
Sorry.
Because you're talking about Ireland. I don't know where you're gonna go. Maybe I miss you misunderstanding what I said. I miscommunicated it. Oh. In the United States.
Oh yeah.
Not Ireland.
No, I'm just talking about that.
In the United States, I've had
a
haircut in Cincinnati, for example, and the lady cutting my hair. Oh, my friend is from there, John. I'm not kidding when I say this. I've been in my graduating class in Washington State doing American government. I'm sitting there. I'm next to my a student here. Oh, I just got back from Canada. I was in Montreal. Do you know Bob? Like, and I'm going, like, you were there. You must have seen that there's fucking cars everywhere and people everywhere, don't you? Like, you were there. That was just one place.
Yeah.
But then they'll go like Toronto, British Columbia. They don't get that whole thing. Now, look. I'm not going to sit here and shit all over Americans. They've done a lot for me, and and especially the hockey fans. They know exactly what's going on. Yeah. Okay, I just mean for random people clicking in that would have no reason today to watch TV on CNN, on whatever it is, ESPN. They're showing a clip of the Toronto Raptors party, and I guarantee you that there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that are kind of impressed. Wow, this city's way bigger than we thought, A. B, they must really give a fuck about sports if 2 million people are outside their houses right now gathering together for this. C, there must be a lot of easygoing people. I don't see too many guns. I don't see too much violence. There's 2 million people, again, in a street, and there's no riot. And fourth on that fucking list is, wow, the weather is pretty good. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Right? There's 4 things to look at that, and
Yeah.
people, I think, are going to be very, very impressed.
They did it for the peach baskets.
Yeah. No, and you're right. It's
We came up with the game, yeah.
Yeah,
It's true. It's Canadian invention basketball.
It's great to see. And it's great to see the Raptors win and all the success. And it was a hell of a game.
Does
Kawhi
stay? What do you think?
I saw today. I saw a clip from the parade where there was a bunch of people around and they were chanting at Kawhi. He was on top of the bus or whatever, and they were chanting one more year at him. And Kyle Lowry leans over Kawhi to the crowd and starts shouting out 5 more years, and Kawhi just starts laughing.
That's pretty funny.
And they kind of like do a bit of a hug. I don't know. I think with the championship, I think he might stay.
Not to rain on anyone's parade, but given the aura around Kawhi Leonard, I like to see him just go on other teams on 1 years and win championships.
Yeah.
So I like to see him go over to Houston and be like,
now that he's
go to the Rockets and be like, okay, let's get James Harden.
But the way I see that
work
working
here is done, and
is
he just goes off into the night.
But the way I see that working is Kawhi Leonard is like in Canada for a year and flicks on the TV and watches an episode of Littlest Hobo and goes, yeah, I could probably do that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
that's kind of
just go
one
around.
episode, he's like, yeah, no, that's me now.
I first of all, if he leaves, I want to say that I would be the first to, not that I get close, but shake his hand and say, job well done. I don't think this is like, even though I would never have shit on Tavares ever, I don't think it's quite that thing where, he came here and he gave up. He wasn't even, no one even thought he would, I can't say nobody. There was a large percentage of people that didn't think Kawhi Leonard was going to play in Toronto. They didn't think he was going to come here, especially after last year. He only played 9 games. He could have said he would have been within his rights to do anything. That's a bad way to put it, but he would have been within his personal moral. No one would have questioned it if he said, I'm not playing this year. I'm not playing. I know I got traded there. I need a new start in a year from now. I only played 9 games. I'll keep myself in shape, but he didn't. He came and he played for the Toronto Raptors, and not only did he played as hard as he could. He answered questions. He did all the interviews. He wasn't in it for likes on Instagram. He wasn't in it for retweets. He wasn't in it for Facebook. He was in it because he wanted to win, and I really respect it. Now, I think if he was to leave and go to the Milwaukee Bucks, one of their rivals, right away, that might leave a little bit of a sour taste, but as I understand it, his options are narrowed down to either the Clippers or Toronto, and he's from California.
Yeah.
So this he's from California. So if he does, I don't fucking blame him, just like I didn't blame Tavares.
And the Clippers were like his team when he was growing up too, right? More so than the Lakers.
Do the Bucks have a championship though?
Nah, yeah. Damn. They do.
Yeah, and they might
historically. If he goes to the Bucks.
No, but the Bucks nearly fucking beat him. The Bucks don't need any help at all.
No,
if there's a new rising force in the East, the Bucks might fucking come out of there. It was literally a bounce. It was Kawhi's bounce that got him in. What an exciting fucking year, man. Even Luke, we just had Luke on. And they won it in Mannheim. That's a big time league over there, man. It's one of the biggest leagues. Anybody can follow Luke on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter is where I saw it. But man, what a year. The fucking Growlers won. The Newfoundland Growlers. I just thought for a lot of, Kendall O'Coin gets lost in all of it. The girl that won the fucking, or nearly won the skating competition.
And then she won the championship as well, right?
And you know what I like of all of it that went bubbling under was Brian Boyle's continued success. He had cancer last year.
Yeah.
He came back, and I'm not even sure how many points he had.
Was it last year or 2 years ago?
It was a couple years he came back from cancer, but still, I mean, the fact is it's still cancer. Right.
Yeah, he's still playing. And I find it really hard for a guy like that to come back because he's a bit of a shithead on the ice. He's got to be physical. He's got to be, and you want people to throw you a bone. I know, but I used to feel like that. A guy.
He's got a long career going too.
Yeah. You could see if
he's
he was
probably
just a
10
scorer,
years
but
punch by
he's
now.
got to go out and chirp guys.
He's got
no one wants to chirp him back. If I was sitting there, I wouldn't want to get in the dust up with a guy who had cancer. I'd be like, oh fuck, man, I'm not going to say anything. So it's an awkward transition, and to have him come back, and I like that now no one throws him a bone anymore. Now it's normal, like it is with Phil Kessel. You forget. You don't even realize it happened.
And he got
right.
I saw a really cool thing. It was he's got 766 games played in what looks like 12 seasons.
Oh wow. 12.
And right now he's with the Nashville Predators. He got traded from the Devils mid-season. They had a actually really cool. The Athletic had a really cool expose, like not expose, but like a profile where they followed him when he got traded. I think they were doing a profile on him for like his life after cancer in the NHL when he got traded, and so they were like on the ground with him the whole day, like as he flew to Nashville.
Does he still have a contract?
I think he's a UFA. I think he's a UFA.
I will try to find that out.
Well, not that it's huge news. I just find things like that are becoming commonplace, which is great that people can overcome things like that, and there's so many storylines now to follow, and maybe social media. You know, a lot of these things, you'd probably find out about that, but a lot of these things like Tarasenko with the cup or Ryan O'Reilly with the kid, you wouldn't, or when I say Tarasenko with the fans, you see him out there with a lot of these things you wouldn't really know about before. So social media is great for that.
One thing I'm going to give you about social media, and you would have never got the Conn Smythe with a puck of skull on the flight, which is one of my favorite images I've seen of
it's great.
Boyle was diagnosed he released the statement announcing on September 19th, 2017.
Wow.
The following year when he returned to play,
Thought it was earlier.
It was like less than 2 weeks after he came back was Hockey Fights Cancer Night, and he put in his first career hat.
Yeah, I remember that game. I watched it at my buddy's
even that wasn't that long ago.
No, that was past fall.
A story like
that was November.
Yeah, that was November. And a story like that seems like 10 years ago. Just think about that. That's an unbelievable story. And the fact that, and even getting traded to Nashville, I don't think that was a bad thing. Nashville were going for the cup and they wanted him.
Yeah.
Not that you presented it like that.
No. He was Nashville loading up.
Yeah, and you forget about that shit.
Yeah.
Because so many things are happening. I mean, fucking hashtag play Gloria. Right? Start there and then just go. No one's even going to talk about that. What a weird fucking pick.
Yeah, well, apparently, I saw a thing where apparently it was a bunch of the boys were playing in Philly. And they ended up at some bar that was doing karaoke, and that became like the running gag or something.
Yeah, which is, and you know, it is a song that if you don't listen to the words, it'll pump you up. It's a uplifting song, but then you listen to the words, and it's about a girl. It has nothing to do with sports or hockey or motivation or anything. But I love it, and they rallied behind it.
It became a song of motivation.
It totally did.
And see Brett Hull singing it?
I remember us doing that in junior to Rasputin. It didn't make any sense.
Oh, brother, what
It didn't make any sense,
though.
but it's a gem.
Oh, I could run through a wall after that.
Yeah.
Boney M were here this year, and I almost spent the money on tickets.
I can't believe I didn't go. I would have gone.
I don't know. It was just a little too much for my...
But, you know, like, you rally behind something, and that's a weird story, but it kind of just fits in with the whole year. I mean, you know, these guys were in last place a few months ago. Jordan Binnington, who?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
25-year-old rookie.
There's
25-year-old rookie who had been loaned to Providence, and I'm just like, why?
Although... I don't do my homework with goalies as much as I should, but I looked at his numbers.
It's because you can't.
They're voodoo.
I looked at his numbers, guys. I don't think he deserved to be down all that time. I don't think he deserved to be in the East Coast League. I'm looking at him. Usually you see a guy go, oh, okay, it was 8-7 for a couple of years, but it really wasn't. I'm not looking at it right now. I looked during the Stanley Cup. I mean, it was such a mystifying story that I couldn't really find a flaw. I'm like, geez, okay, so... You didn't want to play in the coast? Of course not. 9.29 fucking average. Who would? You know, you're one of the best goalies in the A. But he stuck by his guns and he got up. For every Jordan Binnington, there's a kid that's overseas that didn't have that happen to. So it's a great. I think not only is it a great story for him, guys like him and Tim Thomas show that, you know, there's great goalies everywhere. A lot of time it's hitting lightning in a bottle. Do I think Binnington's going to stay that good? No. I don't think he's going to be bad. I don't. I don't think he's going to go the route of the net detective Jim Carrey.
Matt Murray-esque is what I've got him placed on. And
I still think he'll be a number one.
And Matt Murray's a number one. He's got 2 cups.
Yeah, but it's whatever happened this year, it was lightning in a bottle for a lot of those guys, right?
Here's the weird thing. Here's the weird thing, though.
Do you remember when Johan Hedberg came into the league?
Yeah.
Because it was a very similar thing. They had a goaltending injury. He went on a run in the playoffs. I think he made the semifinals.
Do you remember?
He had that fucking moose mask.
Do you remember Jim Carrey, the net detective?
I do.
That's a little bit before my...
I remember Jim Carrey coming
Boston.
in. No, he came in with Washington.
He did. I played against him in Providence. So it was Jim Carrey, and at the same time, Ace Ventura and stuff was out.
Yeah, okay.
So they called Jim Carrey the goalie the net detective instead of... What was the other one?
The
pet
pet
detective.
Yeah.
Ace Ventura was the pet detective.
Didn't he become the red light rascal after that?
Fuck. We played him in... I was like waiting. So he got sent down to Providence.
Yeah.
and we were playing against them in the A, and I was sitting on the fucking blue line. You're glancing over in the other end to see who you're playing against that night, and we're like, oh, Jim Carrey's down. I didn't really hear that news. And anyway, myself and a guy named Chris Schmidt, and we're like, okay, we were playing together that night. Trying to think of, you often don't talk about shots right on net. Like people say, oh, let's talk about, as a line where we're going to shoot it. You don't really get that in depth. I want to shoot it wherever I think is open. But anyway, we lit him up for 16 snipes. Fucking over a couple of games. That was it. And the worst being a 9-goal trouncing. And he was awful. Now, like 2 years before that, or the year before, he went through. Wasn't he the Vezina winner?
He won the Vezina.
Vezina and Rookie of the Year.
He lost. He didn't win the Rookie of the Year, but he won the Vezina as a rookie.
That's phenomenal.
It was in his rookie season, and then the next year so that happened in '96. In March of '97, he was traded with Anson Carter and Jason Allison to the Bruins for Adam Oates, Bill Ranford, and Rick Tocchet.
Imagine. Wow. Immediately, you get the Vezina, and then you're almost run out of the league within a year. Like, it doesn't make much sense. And I truly believe he must have had an injury or something. I don't want to sit here and shit on Jim Carrey. He played long enough to know it wasn't a fluke. It was like a year or two but he just went right in. That can happen if you're a goalie and you tweak something, or you have a mental lapse or whatever it might be, right?
Braden Holtby let in 13 over two games here. One.
Yeah.
I was down for him. He was squirting water in our section.
With Carey, they say a lot of it was that trade. They say it was like, the psychological thing of like being like this hotshot rookie who comes in, wins the Vezina, and then
you don't go from Vezina to shit. If that was why it was the trade, then you're not cut out for it.
Yeah, no.
If you're Vezina and then you're shit because you get traded, fuck me, go suck mommy's tit. Really? I mean, come on. Cut the umbilical cord. Cut the umbilical cord, man.
And he also played.
Who was the coach? Who was the coach when he got traded there?
To Boston?
Yeah, well, after the trade, when
to Boston, I think it would have been Pat Burns then, wouldn't it?
I don't know. You're the one with the computer.
Yeah, I think '97 it would have been Pat Burns.
Could be something like that. Pat Burns was a unique coach. He was one of.
I'm trying to see.
Why do you care?
I'm just wondering if that could have been something that he just completely gave up on.
You gotta realize it's not always the coach, man. It's the GM or the assistant GM. So often when people go, "Oh, who's the coach?" I'm not saying your theory is completely shit, but like most times for me, it wasn't the coach. Like the coach, I'm just going to people that I know, but it sometimes is. But like, to me, when I would get called up, I'd go out in Ellen Vigneault's office and he'd go, "Okay, so you're up. Anybody up? Okay, no. Jonathan DeLille's up in TR. Okay, you guys are on the fourth line." It was often like news to him. Reggie must have called me up. "Oh, who's hurt tonight? Brunet? Okay, now I'm talking. I'm not going like 2 minutes before the game. You get called up. You go in morning skate, and the coach might relay some message to you, but he often just sees what he's got to work with that day. And it's often, someone within the organization that it's not always the GM. I mean, I'm going by Montreal too, where you had all kinds of fucking legends in there. Everybody's something, right? John Velebo was there. I don't even know what he did for the team. The assistant president of operations or something. I really don't know. But you can tag a name on all these ex-players, and a lot of them it might be their opinion. It might be the head scout. It might be this GM, the assistant GM. It might be an assistant coach. Sometimes it's the coach. But, as you saw this year with Mike Babcock, he had to use players. I don't want to get into it, but he used players he didn't want to because he was told to do it. And that's Mike Babcock.
Yeah.
Right? So, there's other players that don't have, or there's other coaches that don't have any say. Here's what you got to work with. Right? Shut up.
Yeah. Fuck.
I'm not knocking what you said.
I was wondering if he went into a situation that they just didn't obviously the coach didn't trade for him. I was wondering if he was not welcomed into a room type thing.
At the time of the trade, he had
Plus, how the fuck did we spend this much time talking about Jim Carrey?
I don't fucking know. You don't even know who Jim Carrey. You don't even know who we're talking about.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the fuck part.
I heard the nickname, the Net Detective.
I just
before.
do from the Vezina.
He was also known as the Mask.
There was a few of those guys. There was a big tall guy for Philly, Czechmonic.
Yeah.
Roman Czechmonic.
Yeah.
These guys come in for a year or two,
and then
there's lots of them.
Especially with goalies, that just kind of
once again, I will always say goalies are voodoo.
No,
you can't teach that.
That's why a guy like Martin Brodeur is so fucking hard to come across, man. Someone that good for that long. Like, look, even I'll give you some names. Guys that I came out with, Eric Fischel, he was unfucking believable.
Yeah.
Went to the Islands, what did he last, 3 years? Dan
Yeah.
Kluche was one of the best goalies. He ended up being a fighter. He was okay for Vancouver for a few years.
Yeah.
But, a lot of these guys come and go. And I guess I really do think when it comes to being a goalie, I do think a lot of it's mental. And I do think a lot of it is your knees. I mean, it has to be, boys. It has to be.
No,
One of the
it
craziest. I'm glad you brought up Kluche. One of the craziest memories I
Hips
have.
too. Hips are bad. With modern
When he
goaltending.
got injured in the playoffs in the first round, that image of him down on the ice, just like grabbing at nothing, crying for help to the bench.
He's the guy, that stuck me in World Junior Camp and asked me to fight. That's why we both got kicked out. He was
Right, you were
on the
telling me
World
that,
Junior
yeah.
team one year.
Wow.
He was on it the year before. And they kicked both of us out of camp, and he didn't make it, neither did I. We got in a fight. He slashed me in the back of the legs, this motherfucker. I was in Montreal, though, right? And the Montreal brass are watching it. So I'm thinking, what's better, the NHL or World Junior? I don't fucking know. This guy slashed. On top of the fact he hurt me. I can't say I was thinking, he fucking hurt me. He slashed me. I said, you do that again, I'm going to break my stick off in your chest, motherfucker. And he did it again. And I broke my stick off right in the fucking Team Canada crest. And Jason Doig came in. I fought both of them on the one play. I said, get the fuck off. Picture in the next day, me like this, fingers up,
Yeah.
middle fingers up, fucking looking back at him in the Montreal paper. And it said something about being a beast from the East or something. And fucking, you know what? I was pissed off in my hotel room. My dad was there with me. The phone rang. Pierre Mondu here, Terry, one of their head scouts, come on down and talk. And they loved it. They fucking loved it.
Habs, you mean?
Yeah, the Habs loved it because the World Junior Camp, but it was in Montreal. And one thing, before I forget, I got to just explain one thing quick because I got to get going. But I told you I'm going to make these Instagram posts.
Oh, yes.
So I made the Instagram post, my last one. It's the Throwback Thursday ones, right? And it's a lot of things. But a lot of people ask me about my first goal. Well, I didn't get one in regular season. In the exhibition, I had in 95, 96, very beginning of that. So I was 18 years old, and I'd had a decent camp. Decent meaning like I was really fucking nervous, man. It's Montreal camp, and back then it was a different game. I remember scoring like once or twice in inter-squad, over the course of like fucking 10 games. I certainly didn't rip it up, but you can kind of grab someone and fight and show some spunk whenever. It was still that time that you could do that. And Donald Brashear was running around, so I jumped in there a couple times when he hit the goalie. I fought a couple of prospects you won't remember. Eric Archambault was one. Some other guys that I ended up playing with. I believe me and Tux went at it. It was just one of those. And so anyway, it was the end of camp. The Montreal Forum was shutting down. I don't think I would have ever gotten a game if that wasn't happening. Because Jacques Demers said, I appreciate it. I know you're a Habs fan anyway, aren't you? I said, yes, and I named them everybody. I was since day one, man. Dad was a Yankees fan and a fucking Canadians fan, and I grew up watching both. Hate to say I copied off him, but it's really all I saw. Right? So, and it was Don Mattingly in baseball, and it was Bob Gainey in hockey, were my first picks. I loved Chris Nyland, though. But anyway, and they knew this. This became a storyline because Jonathan Crow came to my first camp. He was a CBC reporter here at the time.
Yeah.
So wherever I went up there, Jonathan Crow. So people got the idea that something was different. Saku Koivu was there for his first camp. And, they knew that because he was a fucking legend coming in. He was a superstar. He's 2 years older than me, so they'd kind of been waiting for his arrival. For me, it was like I was going around with Jonathan Crow, and it was a Newfoundland thing. So Recchi and Turgeon and Lalo and a few more rallied behind me. So I believe that much like the end of Rudy, where they all come in and go, Rudy doesn't play, I'm not playing.
Throw the jerseys.
I don't think they said that much, but I think they went in and tugged his arm a little bit to let me in the lineup. So Mr. Demers came to me. I said, perfect, I'll play, man. I can't believe it. And I'll never forget. That day, I spent that afternoon putting on my gear, and there was a little TV in there at the time. The Forum was small, dressing room and everything, and pales in comparison to the Bell Center the way it is now. But there was a little TV up, and it was playing the under-18 summer tournament, and Joe Thornton was captaining. And that was my first look at Joe Thornton. I'd heard about him. I'll never forget it. Just certain things you don't forget. And I got to the rink first. Even asked my senior hockey buddies, if we had a game on 7, I treat it seriously. I get to the game at 2 if I'm not working.
Oh, yeah.
2:30. I get like 3 hours before anybody else. So at that, I just like it sets me up. If I was to walk in and everybody's on the go and almost ready to go on the ice, I feel like I'm naked. And especially in that atmosphere, right? I don't like to walk in and all the NHLers are there looking at me. I didn't like that. So I got to the rink at like 1 o'clock. I literally ate my pregame meal. Everybody else went for a meal. I went to the Forum to fucking hang out. So I was like riding the bike and watching the TV, whatever. And then Odeline and a few more guys come in. I'll never forget it. It was a different era, man. But Mike Keane was there, and he was captain at the time. He shortly got ran out of town because he said if you're a Montreal Canadiens captain, you don't have to know English. I was there for that time. I was there for that conference. I remember it. Mike Keane ended up getting 3 cups with 3 different teams, man.
Yeah.
Colorado, Jersey, Dallas, and Montreal. And then, average junior, just a real hard worker, great leader. And so Mike, and I said, Mike, look, I said, I'm really fucking nervous. And I said, he's got me out there. And Demers, I said, he's toying with putting me with Mark Recchi and Pierre Turgeon. I don't know if Turgeon ended up in the Hall of Fame. I'm certain Recchi must be, is he, or he's going to be.
He's
I'm not sure if Rex is yet, but yeah.
Well, both at the time, borderline Hall of Famers, right? They were going to be borderline Hall of Famers. Turgeon, I think, was 1st or 2nd overall, and a very, 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 very crafty player.
I mean, Recchi's got 3 cups, too.
Yeah, Rex does. And Rex was great. I mean, and Recchi was a fucking bullet. Even look at the clip I put up, and he's like a little bowling ball. He takes it from his own end and fucking skates up as fast as anybody, man. But Rex, and they're all sitting in there, and they're loving the story, and they know that I'm overwhelmed to be playing that night. So sure enough, Demers puts me with fucking Turgeon and Recchi on the line. So I'm nervous. I'm like speaking with marbles in my mouth. Mr. Recchi, I don't know what to say. I'm going like, holy fuck, this is a real game. My hands are sweating. I don't sweat a lot only in those situations. I could run a mile. I don't sweat as much as I would if I'm nervous. So anyway, and we fucking go out for warm-up, and I'm looking around. This is like a real NHL game. There's exhibition games in like Timmins and shit. This was like 7 games in. They're selling out the Montreal Forum. Bork was playing for Boston. Like, there was no guy in either lineup that wasn't there anymore. I remember him specifically saying to me and Brad Brown, we were the last 2. And he said, the only reason you're the last 2 is because you're the last 2 first-round picks, and we want you to learn a bit from these guys. And they gave us the option. I could have said, no, I'm going back to fucking Tri-City. I can't imagine who the fuck would say that. But he said, do you want to play anyway? So I did. So we start playing, and right before we went out, I said, Odie and Recchi and Mark Lamb and Mike Keane, they were the 4. There's other guys there, but they were the 4 I talked to. And I said, like, who out there fights? I said, like, I don't know, like, I know I'm a decent fighter. I said, I'm not scared, and at least the fans will get something, and they'll see that I got balls, man. They want to see something out of their first rounder. Let's get serious. I was shaking, man. I was nervous. So I'll never, ever forget it. Mike Keane goes, I guarantee you that Steve Leach will fight you right now. He said he's 32. He's looking for a contract. And there was another guy, Mark Cornforth, who I never played against, but in the minors, he was known as a fairly tough. He'd drop his gloves. So I kind of wanted Cornforth because I'm like, he's like a more minor league guy that I've heard of. Leach was an NHLer the whole time, but a middleweight. Anyway, Leach gets instigating, but I'm skating by the bench and I whack him. You can't see that on the tape. But I whack Leach. This is on YouTube. It's not what I posted, but this happened in the first period. So we fought, and I ended up breaking my middle knuckle. In the clip I posted, I wait my face for a second. You can see the blood all over my hands. But I'm fucking pumped up, right? And we do it right in front of the bench, and my last punch hits fucking Leach square on. I actually did it with an open hand because I'd already broken my knuckle. And I fucking hit him, and he went straight down. Now I win a fucking... that'll be my this week's fucking throwback. I'll throw that on there. But it ended up... I couldn't fucking believe it. I won a fight. I go over to the penalty box. Rex is over looking at me like I can see the boys on the bench from the penalty box across. And Rex going like, I wish you could see the faces I'm making, but he's like just going like he's fucking pumped. His eyes are, you can't believe it. He's grabbing his head going, holy fuck, you're nuts. And I loved it. So I'm going, I can't wait to get out of here and go like with my teammates, Mark Recchi and Pierre Turgeon.
By the way, Recchi, 2017 inductee, Pierre Turgeon, currently the most productive player not in the Hall of Fame.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. That's very interesting because I really didn't
noted
know.
as being the most productive player not in the Hall of Fame.
I assumed they both were, yeah. But I knew that much, and fuck, was Turgeon good to look at. Recchi, you just knew. Recchi, I've often said, it took me like a year to get used to his passes. It was the hardest thing I had to do in my first camp was take passes on Recchi's line, bullets on my backhand. But anyway, so I get out of the box, we go over, and then like I'm thinking like this is it. I don't give a fuck. I played half the game with you guys. It's all good. I got to fight. Like I'm going to sit here now. I almost didn't want to go out there. I swear to you, I was nervous, and I'd already done all right? And I knew I was going back to junior the next night. So then, anyway, he says it again. You want to keep going? Demers looks at me. Like, not that coaches usually give you that option, but it was a unique situation. I said, fucking rights I do, man. And he put me out there, and wouldn't you fucking know it, the shift he puts me out there. Recchi goes and gets it in the corner. I gave it to Rex coming out of the zone. And if you look early in the clip, and I fucking couldn't believe how fast he was. Like, I gave it to him, and he ends up in the other end, like, immediately. He had nothing to work with. And then he goes in the corner, and he instinctively knows where I am, and he fucking put it out of the corner. Hits me in the skate, although I didn't kick it. You saw.
You didn't.
I changed
commented
the
on
direction
it.
of my
Yeah.
skate.
Yeah.
But anyway, there was no replay and exhibition. So it goes in on Billington, and I did try it. I just didn't kick it. It was coming out of the corner, and I just kind of angled my foot that it'd go between his legs, or at least somewhere on net. Right? I can't say I picked the corner, for fuck's sakes. I'm going to stop at saying I picked the fucking corner. But I did try to get it on net. So anyway, then there's this silence, and I go over to the bench, and I'm like, oh my fucking God. It never happened at the time. It was like a video replay now, 20 years before any of that shit was happening.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there going, and again, you can even hear the announcers. They're going, there's no video replay, so I don't know what they're talking about. So they were over there, I guess, talking about it, and Rex went over. And in hindsight, I think Rex said, you guys didn't see it, and that guy hasn't got a fucking goal. It's his first NHL game. That's what I hear. I've heard that since, and it doesn't surprise me. So, but I mean, it's still a game. It's still like registered. Like they don't want to look like buffoons, but they waited for a while. And when I'm on the bench, and when the camera comes over to me, you can see my face, and I go, "Please pop." And that was it. So last week I posted about Bill Bucky Norris, who was on the HMS Bulldog in the war. Great story. And he, I guess I just forget. I still do it sometimes. Like I it's not even praying. It's talking to him as if he's with me, right? Praying would be like something different. Like before the game, I close my eyes and I acknowledge my 4 buddies that were my roommates that passed away. BJ Young, Todd Klassen, Mike Collins, and Jonathan Dillell. I do that every game. But this is different. Like sometimes, and you look at it, people must think I'm schizophrenic. Like, because, I talk to myself, but I'm talking to Pop. So the camera, I don't know what's on me. So the camera looks over and I go, please pop, please pop. And then sure enough, they start announcing it. And I swear to God, man, there's times that you talk about getting goosebumps, but they started announcing, the Montreal Canadiens goal scored. And I was going, oh my God, like it was just overwhelming. And it comes back over, and I couldn't hide the smile. I nearly started crying. I could not hide the smile. And then for 1 second, I wiped my face because I just wanted to kind of put my head down. I knew at that point that the camera was going to come over after a goal. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to cry on camera. And I went and wiped my face. And when I did, you can see the fucking mush that is my hand. And there's blood on every fucking knuckle. And I don't even remember realizing it. It was such a moment. And then give fucking him his credit after the game. The boys loved it. Jacques Demers came down to me and he goes, we're playing again in a few days. And he said, this one's going to be in the Maple Leaf Gardens. And that cue the Ty Domi story. This is how that happened. He said, this one's going to be in the Maple Leaf Gardens. And that's also being ripped down. And I know that you're a big hockey fan. He said, I bet you'd want a game in the Maple Leaf Gardens, wouldn't you? Wow. He said, but you're going to miss your home opener in Tri-Cities. And I remember, and nothing against Tri-Cities, I love all you, but I remember looking at Jacques Demers and going, fuck Tri-Cities. and I got one more game. That's a story for another time when I fought Ty Domi, but I got sent back a week late, and it was one of the best memories of my life. I remember saying, if it ends in now, I'm happy, right? So,
and of course, you could see, not the fight yet, you're going to put that up this week, but you can see the kicked... the no kicking motion redirected puck on the net on Terry's Instagram right now. That's of course Terry Ryan at 2020. In the meantime, until next week, if you want to follow him on Twitter, it's at Terry Ryan 20.
Yes, and it's at Terry Ryan 2020 on Instagram. Thank you, Mike.
I'm at Hickey Mike on all the things.
And I'm at Smokes Indoors.
The podcast is at 3MI Podcast, but if you're listening, you might know that already. But either way, we'll be back at you to shout at you about hockey next week. Thanks so much for tuning in. This has been Third Man In.
See you later.
Later.
The worst crowd